welcome to 4Player Podcast. This is episode 3, 4, 5. I don't remember. How many podcasts have we done so far this E3?
This is E3 Day 2.
This is E3 Day 2 of the show floor. My name is Nick Henderson. To my left is Christopher Guthridge.
Hello.
Tim Lee.
Hello, everyone.
Affectionately known as Chai Tai to many. Nolan Hedstrom.
How's it going, everybody?
Who will not be eating corn nuts during this
Hey, I've already
podcast.
put them away.
Thank you. And to my right is Christopher Davis.
Good evening.
And tonight, we're going to start with the most important thing first. Nolan, tell us about the porn.
All right.
Everybody,
Okay.
inquiring minds want to know.
Quickly. I was walking around the show floor. I think I was in between appointments. I had about, 15 minutes to kill. I didn't want to go to my next appointment yet. So I was walking around the, West Hall? Is that one?
No, South Hall.
Sorry, South Hall. And I got into the back corner.
I don't know where it is.
It's a very dark corner. Not a lot going on back there. And I was walking around and I saw a sign. Saw a big line of people. And I was like, ooh.
A big girthy
This must be a good game. And I walked up and it said, Naughty America. And I was like, I know Nick got an email from them.
I did.
I never heard of Naughty America before.
Oh, right.
Until you said you got an email from them, I had never heard of them before. Nick, so you're telling me you know every porn site in the world?
This is good color for the story, but maybe we should move on.
Yeah, sorry.
Get to the porn, the dick and ball.
So I walk up to the booth. I walk up to the side of the booth because I'm looking at the people wearing the headsets. And there's a guy standing there in like a suit. And he was talking to another couple, a guy and a girl, and they walk away. And the guy in the suit commented that the girl had a very nice ass. And he was like, "Don't you think?" And I was like, "I guess so." And then he was like, "Hey, we're Naughty America." And I was like, "I think you sent an email to one of my coworkers." And he was like, maybe we did. And I was like, "Did he come by?" He's like, "I don't think so."
We couldn't get rid of him.
Yeah, he was like, he didn't come by, but have a seat. And I was like, "What?" And he was like setting me down into a chair. And he's like, "Put this on." And he hands me a VR headset, and I put it on. And all of a sudden, the girl's sucking my cock. I didn't realize I didn't realize they were showing that on the show floor. Like, sorry, clarify. No one was sucking my penis. No one was filleting me. It was virtual reality. First-person view.
Let me be clear about something. I didn't respond to that email from Naughty America. One, because in the email itself, it never said anything about actually putting a headset on and witnessing virtual sex. It just said, "Would you like to come by and speak with our CIO or something like that about the future of porn in VR?"
By the way,
I didn't really come to E3 to really talk to anyone specific. Like, if I'm going to talk to someone, I also want to have something to play.
Oh, you can play it.
But I was not under the impression I was going to be able to see anything, so I just didn't go. But apparently I was wrong.
So I would say guesstimate there was about 70 to 80 people in line waiting to play. I think at 3 kiosks, maybe 4.
There was about 80 people waiting in this really dark corner of this convention center.
And
I would have to assume that like 1 in 5 of them were like, "I don't know what this is. I want to find out why people are lying."
so it was kind of like
It's a snowball effect.
it was. Yeah.
Oh, snowball, nice.
I'm sure that's one video.
They thought they were getting into Zelda.
So the thing is, it was really an awkward situation because he was like, "Hey, watch this porn." You know, anytime someone's like, "Hey, watch this porn," it's a stranger. It's kind of a little weird.
No, could you adjust your mic just a little bit and turn it down?
Yeah, I can just talk farther away from
that
it.
works. That works too.
So it was a little weird. But yeah, there's a video, and it started out, and there was like a girl, and she was talking very sensual to me. She was like, "Hey, I know that we never tried this before, but what if we had a foursome with my 2 friends?" And I'm just like sitting there, and I'm like, I think I had a pin in my hand, and so I was like twirling the pin and sitting there.
I'm just picturing Nolan in this chair, like I'm picturing like this is my mind is like exaggerating. I'm picturing Nolan like on a stage by himself with a whole audience of like 80 people watching him. He's just like, "Okay, let's do that."
Was she blonde?
Yeah.
Oh, that's hot.
Yeah, she was. And then then it switches scenes, and 3 girls come in, and it shows like sex being had, and then it switches to a new scene. It said something, I can't remember the text, but I had to like look around to read the text because it's virtual reality. And then it was a lovely young woman who like cleans dicks. Like that was her job, and she was there to clean my dick.
For sure.
Yeah, that was her job. And that happened, and then it switched to another scene, with about 6 inches in front of my face was a butt, and a girl was slowly, one at a time, pulling anal beads out of the butt. And I took the headset off and I handed it to him and I said, "Thank you. I will be leaving now."
In all fairness, you can't rip those things out like it's a pull cord on a lawnmower.
That is very true. That is very true. But then the best part was the CIO, who happened to be the man I was talking to, asked me to accompany him because he didn't know how to get to the other hall. And so I walked with him.
Oh, you didn't tell me that!
I walked with him and I gave him, we went to the exit of the hall and I said, "That's how you get there." And that was, I pointed it out.
You didn't tell me about the awkward... Did you walk him through the concourse?
No, we walked from the back of the hall to the front of the hall while talking about his company. I can tell you that they have...
jealous. I didn't go to this.
They have 8,000 videos, 2D.
Yeah, I've seen about 80 to 90%.
50 of them VR, and they're releasing about 1 VR video a week. There you go.
Impressive. That's impressive. How was his handshake?
Very firm. It was very firm.
Did you have any like proprioception issues when you look down? You're like, "That's not what my dick looks like."
No, it was actually pretty. It was pretty
That
good.
was pretty accurate.
Was actually pretty accurate.
Was there any glitching like in other VR games where if you're not positioned just right, like the character appendages get all like bent out of shape?
Yeah, the
So,
dick
like,
just went 90
your wang
degrees.
just goes like ties itself in a knot. Like,
Yeah.
This was actually not like rendered porn. This was like actual porn.
Correct.
You're just watching it in a VR headset.
Yeah. Which has got to be weird, because does that mean there's a guy laying there where someone's sucking his
there's a
penis and there's a
naked
camera like right on top of it?
No, he's probably wearing it like on his fucking head, like a GoPro.
No,
Like-
it wasn't shaky at all. It was very stable. It was on a tripod of some sort.
Oh, maybe
I'm sure-
he's holding like a stabilized camera.
He's
while
doing
getting
this?
while he's getting a blowjob. Well, I mean, he's getting a blowjob, so he's like, huh?
He's like,
the camera's stabilized.
If that camera is stable, I guarantee you he was not holding it. Okay, we need to turn the audio levels down because it's peaking a lot. I'm sorry. I know we just said we were going to speak about 5 minutes per game, but we already talked almost 10 minutes about.
That's
porn.
not even a game.
That needed to be discussed.
That's
though.
not even a game.
That was important. That needed to be discussed.
He also told me that from their research, porn will be the 3rd largest supporter of VR headsets.
I thought it'd be the first.
No, they said gaming first. Second is sports.
Did he say gaming just because he was at a gaming convention?
What do you
Maybe.
mean sports?
Well, like I said, he said they have 50 videos. I mean, that's not that many.
Dude, there's gonna be fucking live sporting events streamed straight to your fucking VR headset in the future.
Yeah.
So what? Your perspective for like 99 cents is to be in the nosebleed section up in the rafters?
No, I'm pretty sure it's not gonna be in the
watching a
note.
pre-recorded game?
I'm pretty sure it's going to be down on the field. It's a fucking camera, Chris Davis. There's not a cameraman on the field.
Well, no. The 50-yard line, front row is like $60.
So?
Just saying. That's
Somebody
what
just
I'm
did a 50-yard line on our podcast. I'm moving on.
Yeah.
What?
Next game.
First game.
Yep.
Real quick, I do want to kind of talk just real quick about Resident Evil 7 because I played it last night.
That's true. We didn't talk about it last night.
I haven't had a chance to talk about it on the
You
actual
didn't
show.
play Resident Evil 7. You played Resident Evil Home. What was it called?
It's
Something Home.
First hour.
The first hour.
First
Beginning
hour.
hour.
Beginning hour.
Beginning hour.
I don't need to go into a great amount of detail at this point. A lot of people at home have already played it and seen it. It's been divisive here at our own site. Brad's not very happy with it, which to each his own. Whatever. I didn't watch him play it, so I don't know exactly what issues he takes with the demo itself. I came out of this demo very, very positive about the future of Resident Evil, or at least optimistic, because I was very negative about where the series went post 4. And this definitely seems to be setting a very, very, very different tone. But there were some new details that kind of came out today. There was actually an interview with the director of Resident Evil 7, who I come to find out is actually a designer who worked on Tenchu Stealth Assassins, which is one of my favorite PlayStation 1 games, which is kind of weird. I didn't know that. But anyways, a lot of details came out about, this demo being more just a setting the tone for Resident Evil 7 and its content's not actually in the game. The character you play as in the demo is not in the game.
Mm-hmm.
And, a lot of people were taking issue. I think one of Brad's issues was it didn't feel like Resident Evil because there wasn't any combat. But in an interview today, it has been confirmed that a lot of Resident Evil tropes will obviously make a return. Combat will play a role in the game. It won't, but it's going to be far less. It's going to be scaled back. It's not going to be nearly as action heavy.
It's not going to be focused primarily on just mowing down zombies.
Yes, he said he wanted to avoid situations where you were literally mowing down zombies.
And he wants there to be less enemies, but them be more meaningful.
Yes, he wanted encounters to be more meaningful, more spaced out throughout the game, which is awesome. That sounds great to me. The original Resident Evil is a huge influence on this game going forward, and other things that are tropes of Resident Evil, like using herbs, combining herbs, inventory management, things like that, are all present in the game, just not in the demo here. But the bit he did, one thing I was wondering about was, is this whole game going to be first person? And it was confirmed, yes. This whole game is first person, but it was first person before they ever even decided to do VR.
Interesting.
That was a decision that was made prior to, and it just so happened that VR kind of blew up because they started working on this in 2014. VR kind of blew up, and they were like, "Oh, why don't we do this?" And in the interview he talked about they've made it so that you can literally play the game in VR all the way through from beginning to end, or you can play it without VR. You can switch you can switch back and forth at any time. So if you're playing VR and it gets too intense, you can just take the headset off and switch and play it on your TV. Like, it's super simplistic in terms of going back and forth between the two modes. But for the most part, it was built from the ground up for PS4 without VR really in mind from the beginning, and that all sounds super positive to me. A lot of people are comparing this to PT, and for good reason. They've hired people from the team that made PT to work on it, probably to help inject some horror into it. I think the demo tried to achieve kind of the same thing, or accomplish the same thing that PT did, and maybe not to the same extent, because like you said, I do have to, last night we played it 3 times.
Yep.
PT, I've still to this day only really played that demo from beginning to end
once.
Yeah. But to get the most out of this, it was kind of like, just play it and then go back and see what you can do differently and that kind of thing. What I will say is,
it seems like I don't want to say that this demo was rushed out or anything like that. We don't know how long they've been working on this.
Yeah.
We do know that it's coming out much sooner than any of us thought. January. So obviously they have a decent chunk of the game, and so it is a little weird that they put out such a short demo.
Yeah.
When PT was all of nothing, and the demo was so expansive. Now, granted, it was really expansive in a tiny area.
He actually talked about that because when they decided to do a demo for it, I'm sure this is also, a lot of it has to do with the fact that, yes, PT was so successful.
Yeah.
But he said that they really, really, really wanted to create a demo. They want to keep the sense of mystery. They want to get as close to launch as humanly possible without people knowing much of anything. Which is why they're like, why don't we just make a demo that's exclusive? The content's totally different, just setting the tone, getting people hyped, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Also, it looks like they've confirmed no QuickTime events in Resident Evil 7.
Interesting.
It seems like they're taking a lot of stuff to heart. Now, I will say this. They did confirm that this game is going to be related. It's in the same universe, same timeline. It is going to be related to the events of Resident Evil 1 through 6. So that means, we saw the Umbrella logo on a picture, so, whatever. But they said that they want the first portion of the game, I don't know how much of it, like when they actually start playing Resident Evil 7, they want people to have that reaction of, how is this related at all to Resident Evil?
So there's not going to be backflipping dinosaurs.
Doesn't look like it, no.
Okay.
But they existed.
But they want you to, they said at some point in the game, it will become clear as to how these are connected. But from the start, it is not going to feel like you're playing Resident Evil, with the exception of, I found an herb. That kind of thing. Or maybe an ink ribbon, or whatever. Who the hell knows? Anyways, I'm super excited about the future, or at least excited. This project has gotten me excited about Resident Evil again, even if it does turn out to be a shit show.
Yeah.
Like, if somehow they fuck it up and it is like Resident Evil 6 all over again, I doubt it, but, I am at least, they picked a really cool way to reinvigorate interest in the franchise. So there we have it.
So, one thing people are speculating, there's a rumor going around about the game, is that when you find the tape in the game, on the display on the title card for it.
Yes.
Before it starts rolling the footage, there is on there a product code.
Yeah.
It's a product code. Now, if you go through Capcom's back catalog, it corresponds to Resident Evil Director's Cut for the PS1 with the Resident Evil 2 demo, which became Resident Evil 1.5.
Which means what?
So
exactly?
people are speculating that Resident Evil 7 will ship with the Resident Evil 2 demo.
Oh, well, Well, we said this last night. I think it's probably still a little too soon. Maybe it'll be one of those things where it's like when you buy it, you get like a voucher to play it when it comes out later or something. Because I think it's still too early to get a demo.
It
for
probably
Resident Evil 2.
is.
Anyways, we don't need to talk too much about Resident Evil 7. I have some more. If I have more thoughts on it, I'll share something I'll write something on the website or something. But and I'm sure we'll talk about it with Brad once we're back in Austin. But for the time being, let's move on to stuff we've actually played on the show floor at E3 today. Why don't we save Zelda for last? And I know, and we won't talk too much about Zelda 2 because Nolan hasn't played it yet. He's going to play it tomorrow morning, so we'll talk a little bit more about it tomorrow night. But for now, why don't we just pick a game and go?
How about we talk about the first game I played today?
First game you played today.
And that was?
Necropolis.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
So we had an appointment, or Chris and I went to an appointment with Namco Bandai.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, Bandai Namco? Namco Bandai. Bandai Namco.
Yeah.
And one of the games they had there was Dragon Ball Z Xenoverse 2. And I was like, let's check that out. And he was like, well, they just started the video and demo, and that lasts an hour. So you can try it in an hour. And I was like, I have other meetings. So I didn't try it. Maybe I'll go back tomorrow and see if I can jump in. But anyway, so Necropolis. For those that don't know, Necropolis is a roguelite, Souls-like, procedurally generated dungeon crawler kind of type game. It's really interesting. It controls exactly like a Souls game. Light attack, heavy attack, shield bash, dodge, like controls are the exact same. So you're a character. I don't know the story behind it. There's probably going to be one. I don't know what it is, though. You're going into these dungeons and you're fighting enemies. One cool thing is every enemy is going to drop a weapon, and you can pick up that weapon. If you want. Weapons act differently, so a longer sword will take longer to swing but do more damage. Shorter dagger-type swords are much quicker, but they do less. It doesn't teach you this. It's just kind of intuitive. You realize, all of a sudden the sword's doing something different. Similar to something like Legend of Dungeon. There are potions in the game, but every time the potions are different. So if you pick up a blue potion, it's not always going to heal you. Sometimes it might have negative effects and stuff like that. But for the rest of that particular dungeon crawl, it will be the same. There's also a crafting system. Anytime you kill enemies or you can find crafting material in the world, you can craft food to eat to heal yourself. But that takes time. So you take it once again. It doesn't pause. It's like a Souls game. So you go into crafting when you're alone. You can craft food, and so crafting like good quality food takes more items. You can more easily craft rotten food, and rotten food has a chance to make you sick. Now, making you sick, it doesn't take away health or stamina or anything like that, but it makes you vomit, which makes you vulnerable because you're standing there vomiting. And enemies, so you can't really eat rotten food while you're in combat because you might end up getting fucked. Another interesting thing about the game is you can charge attacks. So something like some Souls-like games, you can hold the button down, and it will charge up and make a big attack that does a lot of damage, but it permanently reduces your stamina. So every time you want to do one of these big sweeping attacks, your stamina goes down. Now, it's not just like a single attack. Like the heavy attack, he'll do like 5, 6, 7, 8 really heavy slashes. So if there's a group of enemies coming and you can funnel them down maybe, charging that up will make it really easy to take them all out. But once again, you lose stamina, and you can only regenerate that by eating or taking like potions and stuff like that. Friendly fire. It's there. Enemies can hurt each other. You can goad enemies into hitting each other. It's pretty cool. If someone's throwing a projectile, you can get in between them and an enemy in between you and them. There was one section where I was fighting like a shit ton of skeletons, but this one kept throwing fireballs, so I kept kind of dodging and making the people run into the fireball path.
It was also mentioned that there are multiple groups of these monsters and creatures out there, and they will infight between them. So you can use that to your advantage.
Since it's procedurally generated, sometimes enemies will be dropped near enemies they don't like.
Yeah.
And so they will just fight each other. So sometimes you will come across either dead enemies, or you'll come across enemies in combat, or maybe if you know a certain enemy doesn't like another one, you can make them chase you to the other one and they'll start fighting each other.
Was there some kind of twist on this game about when you die? Like, what, something happens when you die? I remember.
I
Like
can't remember. I mean, the only thing I can think of is you retain some. You retain almost like Rogue Legacy or something. There you do retain some aspects from when you go back. You get tokens, which you can use. I can't remember what you use tokens for.
I believe they're used for unlocks, but basically, in order to acquire tokens, you have to proceed through the game, and before you die, complete a quest that's given to you by the main.
That's right. Yeah.
Control.
So yeah, if you there when you start a dungeon run, it gives you objectives, and if you complete them all, you get like a permanent buff. So it's like, oh, kill this many types of this enemies, use this many potions, craft this item, whatever. And then if you complete that before the end of your dungeon run, you now get, +4 attack, whatever. And that's a permanent thing. So yeah, it's pretty cool. Once again, you get to keep some stuff. There is also 4-player multiplayer, 4-player co-op rather. But once again, friendly fire, so you can hit each other, so you have to be careful. It's also drop in, drop out. So if you could be in the middle of a dungeon crawl and someone can jump into your game, the problem is every time you start the game, you're at level 1. So they're going to jump into your level 5 dungeon at level 1. They're going to be pretty vulnerable. So you can maybe drop them a more powerful weapon that can help them out, because weapons are all tiered based. If you're on the first level, you're getting weak weapons. The farther you go, you get more powerful weapons. So you can give them some weapons. You can just protect them until they find some of their own. And the interesting thing they were telling me about it was that when in the multiplayer, you each kind of have your own instance of that game. So if you start a game, if the 4 of us start a game together, we're playing it, one of us has to drop out. You don't, you can kill yourself, I guess. Or you can just literally leave the game, go do what you got to do, and when you come back, boot it up, and you'll be where you were, just by yourself now.
So you got to catch up?
You don't have, no, I mean, y'all have already finished your game, whatever. Y'all have all died, and your game's over. But since the game was persistent in my world, when I start the game back up, I'm where we were when I left. Like level 5 of the dungeon.
So is this a game that you play like it's unlike Dark Souls where it's like a story-driven,
It's procedurally generated roguelike, so yeah, I mean, it's a dungeon crawler, but yeah.
Gotcha. Okay,
but there is story that you can find on glyphs on the wall.
Mm-hmm.
How do you feel about that, Chris Davis?
I mean, it's better than reading item descriptions.
Yeah, that's true. And there are randomly... Okay, whatever, fine. There are randomly generated secret passageways, which you can find that have secrets behind them. Yeah, it seems like it's going to be a really fun game.
Some PAX
I think it might have been there.
Prime at some
and
point.
is it coming out the 28th of either this month or next month? Fairly soon.
It's coming.
Yeah.
It's coming.
From Harebrained Schemes, by the way.
Yep.
The same team that's working on they did Shadowrun, and they're working on Battletech right now.
Cool.
So
cool beans. That's Necropolis.
Correct.
That's a pretty cool art style, I think.
Yeah.
Maybe not my favorite.
It's like
art style,
geometric.
Yeah, it's
like shapes. Yeah.
It is cool looking though.
it's a little journey-ish in the
a little bit. Yeah.
So this morning, first thing that happened when the doors opened, Crispy and I went and saw a theater presentation for Mafia 3.
Mafia
3 from Take-Two. There's no hands-on. It was
Hangar 13 is the developer.
Hangar 13 is the developer.
Yes.
And what we saw, so I didn't realize you played Mafia 2 from beginning to end.
Yeah,
right?
I finished Mafia 2.
I played Mafia 2 for about 5 or 6 hours, and I let it go.
Mm-hmm.
Mostly because to me, I think the world felt really kind of lifeless.
Yeah, there wasn't a lot going on beyond the main quest.
Yeah, it suffered a little bit from LA Noire syndrome, where the world didn't everything outside of the main story and the cutscenes and the things you were actually.
Well,
doing.
I don't think anyone's been quite as bad about that as LA Noire.
Yeah, true.
LA Noire is a shit game.
But Mafia.
Don't look at me like that, Chris Davis. You don't get to criticize Dark Souls and then say LA Noire was a good game.
I didn't say it was a good game.
You're looking at me like I
not
just insulted your favorite cat.
Went for the cat, huh? Low blow.
I'm just saying it's not a shit game. It's not a good game, but it's not a shit game.
It is a game with a lot of
All right,
problems.
we're splitting hairs here.
That's got problems.
We're here to talk about
Mafia
3.
3.
And what we saw of Mafia 3 today has me interested.
It looks cool.
It looks cool. It looks solid. It does not look like it's going to break any ground.
No.
There's nothing really done here that hasn't been done in a million other games that are kind of like this, with the exception of one thing. So the game takes place in.
The suspense is killing me. Now.
Sorry,
What's the one thing?
New Bordeaux is the name of the city.
It takes place in New Bordeaux. It's it's basically New Orleans.
You're taking apart the Italian mob in the city. And the city, as you might imagine, is split up into districts, and each district is controlled by a different mob boss.
Okay.
Each district has its own specialty, like one is brothels, one is smack,
One's
one
cocaine.
Is moonshine. Actually, I don't think there was a cocaine one.
Well, there's
Oh, there might have been.
There's
Anyway,
10 districts. So I don't think they even
Is
listed
one
them all.
levies?
no, unfortunately.
No.
That could be helpful in about 30 years. So this guy you play, Lincoln, he's going after the mob, and he's replacing it with his own mob. So he has his own lieutenants.
And they're called the underbosses.
The underbosses.
Okay.
Yeah, there's 3 of them, and they're like fully fleshed out story characters. They have their own motivations and backstory for helping you. As you take out the Italian mobster bosses, you get their territory, and then you decide what to do with it. So you have to assign all of these different turfs that you're capturing to your underbosses. And they have these sequences in the game called the sit-downs, where you actually go into a room with all your lieutenants, you sit down, and they all make their case for why you should give them that territory.
Interesting.
And there's this whole menu system that comes out of that, where each boss will say, like, okay, well, if you give me this territory, this is what I can do for you. Because like each one of them has their own specific benefits that help you out. Like, so for instance, there's this one guy named Vito who,
of course,
he sends you, like, you can always call in like reinforcements. You can call in a car of muscle. So like there'll be one instance where he'll say, okay, if you give me this territory, the next muscle I send you will be free. Like, you don't have to pay for it. And then from that point on, like, I don't know, something like you'll have quicker access to that, right?
Okay.
Or get it at a discounted rate. But
these underbosses don't always really see eye to eye with each other.
Of
So
course.
if you're favoring one of them over another, like, some of them will start to get really pissed off.
So kill him.
The demo that they dude, the demo that they showed was during a gameplay where Lincoln had been giving most of the territory he'd been capturing to one of his underbosses, this girl who was in charge of a Haitian gang, right?
Okay.
There's a Irish guy named Burke who works for you, who just like fucking hates her. And when they do the sit down, he's at the point where he's like, you better give me something soon, or we're gonna be fucking done. And he hates this girl too. And even in the menu, when they're showing you the stats of like how things will change from the decision you make, they will all have a condition where it's like, okay, give this to me, I'll give you this. But if you give this territory to this specific character, I'm going to give you this penalty. Like, I'm going to take this away from you. Because there's this whole politics of trying to keep that in balance. This playthrough, they had been really disproportionately in favor of that Haitian girl. And so just for shits and giggles, they say, okay, well, we'll give it to the Haitian girl and see what happens, right? So Burke loses his shit. He stands up from the table and he says, next time I see you, it's going to be at the end of my fucking gun. So then it unlocks this whole new mission chain where you have to go to the territory that you gave Burke, that's now his, and you have to kill him. So your bosses, if you don't keep them happy, they will turn on you, and then that unlocks new content where you have to deal with them because they are now a new enemy faction in the game.
Interesting.
So that is the one part of all of this that really kind of like stood out.
thank you. You said it very eloquently, better than I could have. Thank you.
Everything else seems very
Safe.
Grand Theft Auto-esque. Yeah,
Cool.
it seems it's a very rote kind of open world action game. I mean, it looks cool.
Mechanically speaking, it looks like combat is taking a lot of inspiration from GTA 5 in terms of the cover systems and the way the guns feel and the way combat situations end up playing out. There's some particularly brutal close up kill animations. Like,
nice.
If you're into that thing, Like it's weird. Like it almost felt gratuitous, but at the same time, it's like look at just the time period they're telling or the story they're telling and the time period they're addressing. Like it makes sense. But
To clarify, I think this guy's name was Vito, but he's not the main character from the first or from Mafia 2.
Okay.
Somebody had.
But yeah, it looked cool. It just it didn't look like anything particularly new, with the exception of what Crispy just described, which I think looks really cool. And honestly, for me, is probably going to be what drives me to play this game. Oh, hello, cat. Is there anything else you want to say about Mafia 3? Or?
Not really. I mean, I'm still not convinced that it's going to be a must-have day one buy.
Sure.
But it'll be something to check out.
But you know,
when
what it is?
releases.
This definitely looks like one of those games I might play. When there's a little bit of a dry spell.
When's that coming out?
I think it's supposed to come out
October.
October.
Okay.
Yeah,
Which is,
so-
as we know, is
There's
not.
a lot of,
of
shit
course.
coming out in October.
Which I would love to try and get this game in before the end of the year. I don't know if it's going to happen because October and November look crazy, but there's also a lot of stuff that's slipping out of 2016 and into 2017. So who knows? Maybe there will be time. There's also still plenty of time for other things to be delayed between now and then. What else we got?
Can we talk about a more lighthearted game?
Sure.
Yes.
While we were in Bandai Namco, we saw a game, and we were like, "That's dumb. We're not going to play that."
And then you play
And then I was like, "Well, I got
And
a
then we
few
didn't play it, we
minutes.
left.
I got a few minutes to kill. Let's check it out." And that was Pac-Man 256.
Oh yeah, so I've heard a lot of people say.
And so I was like, "Let's just play a round or two." And I think we played like 15 or 20. I kept just saying, "Just one more, just one more." And so Pac-Man 256 is an endless runner where you and up to 3 other players take the role of Pac-Man. You can change a character. You can make yourself look like Pac-Man in different forms, 3D, 2D, retro.
Chicken.
He was a chicken. I played a robot for a while. Yeah, you can just make yourself, the character doesn't matter. But you're running around a Pac-Man world. So it looks like you're on a Pac-Man level.
it's kind of isometric, isn't it?
Yes, it is isometric. It's a top down at an angle. But the catch is if
This
you
is the 256 level of Pac-Man.
correct. So if any of you are familiar with the very final level of Pac-Man, half it's the split screen. So half of it is jarbled information, and the other half is whatever. And so that jarbled information is constantly rising. And if it gets you, you die. So you're constantly running to escape from it. The crazy thing about this game is it doesn't always look like classic Pac-Man. It changes to sometimes the bars in between look like or the road. It looks like you're on a road and those are medians, and the ghosts change into like F1 cars.
Yeah.
They're driving around. Sometimes it looks like an office like setting, and the ghosts it looks like cubicles, and the ghosts are desk chairs.
Yeah.
Sometimes they're giant robots. Like it's just constantly changing every time you play. The game's a little bit different, which it makes it fun.
And the maze is, it seems like it's randomized every time.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure there's a set limit to it, but every time we played it, it was something
I
new.
kinda wonder how you code that.
You can.
I know it's kind of one of those things where it's like,
There are power-ups that you randomly find. So in Pac-Man, you would normally find the power pellets.
Yeah.
You find those, and the ghosts will turn blue, and you'll be able to eat them. But you can also find other things, like a tornado that will send out a bunch of tornadoes in different directions to attack ghosts. There's like a magnet item that it will put a pulse around you, and any dot in that will automatically be collected.
There's a laser vision.
The laser is
is
fucking
so
awesome.
helpful.
It just shoots a laser straight ahead until it hits a wall, and it will kill anything in its path. There's some other stuff too. The cool thing about playing it multiplayer is if one person dies, about 5 to 10 seconds later, it will drop an item that you can grab to respawn that dead person, which is really nice, and that got us out of some binds. And so I could see this being a little easier with multiple people, just because you can keep reviving them. And then the longer you play it, you get points, which transfer into like gold or coins or something like that. And then you can use those coins to upgrade those power ups. So you can make like the more tornadoes come out, or you can make the effects last longer, stuff like that. But overall, it's actually just a really fun game to like just pick up and play a few levels.
cool.
Yeah.
I've heard a lot of people. I've actually heard people overheard people talking about it on the show floor too, saying it's pretty cool. So
Yeah.
that's good to hear. Hey Tim,
Yes.
I want to hear about ReCore because I'm gonna play ReCore. That's probably the first thing I'm gonna do tomorrow morning is play ReCore.
So the fastest way I can explain what ReCore is that Mega Man is to Mega Man X as Mega Man Legends is to ReCore.
Okay.
It plays very much like Legends, but very fast paced, a lot of movement, a lot
As
of
someone who's
abilities.
never played a Mega Man game in his life,
Okay.
that completely went over my head.
Okay, so standard Mega Man, you just walk, you kind of go a solid pace, but you just jump, and it's very methodical.
Yeah.
Mega Man X is all about momentum and speed and
Uh-huh.
action.
Okay.
So basically, it is a third person shooter, but it does not rely on third person aiming. All aiming is done by Z targeting for
Mhm.
combat, and it lets you lock on the enemy. So now your focus becomes on dodging and maintaining a combo. You build a combo up by dealing damage, by defeating enemies, and this is important because the larger your combo is, the larger your damage multiplier becomes.
Interesting.
And that's also important because you don't have ammo as a count, but you do have ammo as a resource that refills over time.
Yeah.
So if you just aimlessly shoot, you're going to run out of ammo fast and your combo drops. So it's all about maintaining when to fire, when to let your ReCore buddies, the little robots, attack, and balancing that with, say, doing charge shots. It has Mega Man style charge shots that take out a chunk of your ammo, but they'll do large damage, can build up your combo meter faster, and break shields.
So is this game a combat centric game or a puzzle centric game?
It's a little of both. So the demo does a good job of both, because the combat, it's very much like DMC in that it's color coordinated. You want to be shooting the correct enemies, the correct colors. There's 4 different colors: white, yellow, blue, and white and red.
Yeah.
And
you have access to all of them?
you have access to all of them. You just tap the D-pad, you'll switch colors. And you also have your 2 robot buddies.
I wonder if they just gave you that because for the sake of demoing the mechanics, or
No, they did say that's planned to be
Okay.
like that. And the demo takes place about good 4 hours in, so still early, but not beginning.
okay.
The demo gave you 2 buddies. You had the robot dog,
Mac.
Mm-hmm. And you had the squid thingy, spider. I can't remember the name of
I
it.
don't remember his name.
But you can command them to attack with a single button. So whatever enemy you happen to be looking at or locked on, you just tap that button and it'll go do your attack. It counts towards your combo meter.
Yeah.
So you can use that as kind of a way to distract an enemy and keep them busy, so you can deal with a bigger threat or help just maintain a combo as you go.
Okay.
And
Wait, so when they kill enemies or when they hit enemies, that maintains your combo?
yes, it does.
Okay.
And you have access to a double jump and a dash at all times. So that's very much like Mega Man X. So you can dash, jump, dash, jump, dash, any combination of those things, as long as it keeps you afloat. So sometimes, there'll be a move that, like a ground pound that surrounds the ground, you want to stay above it.
Yeah.
And like the combo meter becomes interesting because there's a boss in there that's a giant ball that's just spewing out minions. And normally most players just kill the thing to get rid of it. But now you kind of want to kill those minions to help build up your combos so that your attacks
more
on the boss-
damage.
Yeah, it's more
Yeah.
efficient, so you don't waste your ammo. As far as exploration goes, there's elements in the world that you need to do that require certain robot aids. Like there's yellow tracks. They look like the spider tracks from Metroid Prime.
Mm-hmm.
But you need your spider guy to do it, and he'll automatically drag you along the path. So it'll take you to some ledges so you can do a platforming challenge. One of the nice things it does is it actually leaves a solid circle that shows where exactly you're going to land, as opposed to having to rely on your shadow.
Yeah.
And there'll be other elements like platforms that are electrified, but the electricity is blue, so you need to shoot it, and it'll temporarily stop the electricity. But you can't just shoot them all because you don't have enough time to clear them. So you have to jump, shoot, jump, shoot, jump, shoot, constantly keep moving. Again, the aim is not as important because of Z targeting. You'll always be locked onto your target. You just need to focus on the movement.
Yeah.
That's the part that's very much like Legends or like
Gotcha.
Metroid
Okay.
Prime. And there is a level system. There is a resource system.
When you say a level system, like your character levels up? you mean,
Yes,
or-
the games, there's XP. The game started at
So the RPG elements.
RPG elements. Yes, there's definitely materials. He didn't go much further into that. He didn't explain, like he said there may be skills, but he kind of tried to say tight-lip about what the progression would be like.
Yeah.
But in terms of just the straight action, the straight puzzling, the platforming, it's
Yeah.
very solid. It's very fun. Like,
How did it feel, control-wise?
control-wise, it's one of those situations where if you're not used to a lock-on system, you may find yourself getting stuck on the wrong enemy. But it's just easy to flick. You just flick the right stick in the direction of the enemy you actually want to target, and it'll switch. And then if you just want to, you drop it by letting go of the trigger and then reestablishing. But once you're locked on, then the aim is the least of your concerns. You just want to base on how you're shooting or
Gotcha.
where you're moving. But
Okay.
it's very impressive. Great
Cool.
demo.
So you liked it?
Yes, very
Cool.
much.
Well, that is definitely my first stop tomorrow morning. There's a few things in the Microsoft booth I want to check out as well. So yeah, that's cool. I'm glad to hear that. That's one of those games like I really didn't know mean, none of us really knew anything about. They've been very, very hush hush about what that game actually is. So it's nice to see it, to know more about it. Who wants to go next? Who wants to go next? Well, Crispy and I played another game together today. We stopped by the Ubisoft booth, and
For Honor.
We played
We
For
For
Honor.
Honor.
This is last year we waited for like 3 hours to play For Honor, and then
Oh, you did play it last year?
no,
Nope.
No.
Oh, okay.
no, I waited
Nice.
3 hours.
He
last
got
Nice.
almost up there and then gave up.
Well, actually, no. We got almost up there, and then we realized we're not going to get in before the show floor
I
closes.
mean, I kind of wish I'd played the demo from last year because that was an actual multiplayer demo.
Yeah.
The demo we played today was a level of the single player. It's like the first level of the night campaign.
Okay.
Um,
So you only played as the Knights?
Only played as the
only
Knights.
I see.
plays the knights. I mean, not that. I mean, the basic mechanics of the game are going to be the same for all three.
Mm-hmm.
It's all revolves around melee combat. There
Okay.
not even really like archery or anything in the game. It's all melee combat.
But we saw archery in the trailer.
Those
not a player character using a bow.
No, I'm just saying.
Yeah,
we
Well,
saw
there
yeah,
are
we-
archers.
Oh, okay.
Like,
you just don't get to play as
you
them.
get to murder.
Oh, okay,
but
cool.
You don't actually fire any arrows. But yeah, like this was a single player campaign demo, no multiplayer.
It was
But-
basically just like showing off how the guard positioning system of the melee combat
which I'm
works.
actually really into.
Which yeah, it works really well.
Mhm.
It's a 3-directional system. You hold L2 to guard, and while you're guarding, you can change position. So while you're holding L2, you'll just automatically guard in whatever direction you're set to.
Mm-hmm.
The other player, at least in the single player mode, the other character has an indication telling you where they're attacking from.
Okay.
And it'll kind of like blink right before they attack, so you have a good indication before they hit you. And then
So if they're blocking to the right, you block, or if they're attacking to the right, you block to the right,
Mm-hmm.
so forth. I'm wondering if you could turn that off. If you can get to the point where you kind of learn the positioning of the hands to kind of figure out what it is.
I would have to imagine it's something for single player. I think it might turn off for multiplayer only because that would be like such a. It's just too much information. I feel like.
Yeah.
What would be really cool for multiplayer would be that dual aspect of having to track their sword. Be like when they hold their sword up, okay, I gotta hold mine up, right? Instead of the UI just blinking at you and being like, guard up, shit like that. But then besides the positioning, you also have a light attack, heavy attack. You can do a little dodge, and you have a guard break
Yeah.
where you can like bash into them,
Which
break their
is
guard. That stuns
incredibly
them.
useful.
Yeah, it's really useful, especially since sometimes getting around guard can be really tricky. And then once you stun them, you can even like grab them and throw them to the ground and attack, get a few free shots in. What we played didn't have a lot going on. It, like I said, it was one mission. It ends with a duel, but
It
it's
showed off a little bit of how they're telling their story.
right. It's really cool. The apparently, like, I guess each one of the 3 factions is gonna have its own campaign.
Yeah.
So there's a knight campaign, there's a samurai campaign, and a Viking one. Again, cool mechanic. I just I need to see the multiplayer. We haven't seen any of the multiplayer yet. That's where this game is going to live and die. This is definitely supposed to be probably a PvP game first. But it's definitely one to check out if you're into that sort of thing. What next?
Just real quick,
Ask a question. Are y'all gonna play Horizon tomorrow?
I'm gonna try.
Then
I'm gonna fucking try.
I'll wait to talk about it tomorrow with y'all.
10 o'clock on the dot, use the fucking PlayStation app to
Yeah.
make an appointment. It even confirmed that I made the appointment. It even gave me a pop-up reminder on my phone. But as soon as I made it, I went to look at my schedule to make sure that I went through.
You know it doesn't add
God.
one to your schedule, right?
Yeah, it does.
It does.
It's supposed to.
Okay.
All the appointments that I made and that were successful are still on my schedule.
Oh. Okay. Maybe I wasn't paying attention.
If you open that schedule part of the app. Okay, so if we're not going to talk about Horizon,
I do real quick, just to wrap up about For Honor. I just wanted to say this game wasn't on my radar at all. I really wasn't that interested in it. But after playing it and seeing, like, technically speaking, it's a really polished game. I was really digging the sound design in it too. I think it looks and sounds really nice, and that guard system I think worked really, really well. And not to mention, I really liked the way this. I don't know how deep this story mode is going to go, but the way that it unfolded, and the way it ended with like they have a trial by combat, and like that whole the drama that played out during that trial by combat, I thought was actually kind of interesting. So I'm actually kind of interested to play this game now. Also, it's worth noting they let you pick between basically 8 different characters. They had 4 different loadouts. Each one was male, or they had 1 male, 1 female.
Yeah, you can play a lady knight.
And Chris and I just happened to pick the same loadout, lady character.
It's kind of cool. Like Jennifer Hale was the voice, and the only real difference is the lady knight's a little slimmer and has a ponytail sticking out of the helmet.
Nice.
But yeah, if that matters to you, it's there.
Can I talk about a game real quick?
Speaking of knights.
Crispy wanted to go next.
Okay, go ahead.
Speaking of knights, we played a jousting game.
That was actually the next one I wanted to talk about
A
too.
jousting game called...
Hold on. From the developers of Broforce, Free Lives.
So you understand where this is coming from.
Yeah. Good. Obviously going to be a good game.
Yeah.
Oh, it's gonna be great! I can't wait to play it.
What was the name of the game?
It is called Genital Jousting.
What? Yeah.
It is exactly what it sounds like.
No, actually, I mean, kind of, but
no, I mean like take what that sounds like to its extreme, and that's pretty much what this is.
it's exactly what it sounds like if you take it to the extreme.
You play a penis with a butthole.
You also have balls.
Well, yeah, you
play a cock and balls.
You're dick and balls with a little butthole between the balls.
Mm-hmm.
There's no
And
fate.
there's up to 8 players at one time. You're all on screen, just kind of wiggling around, and you're trying to put your dick in someone else's butthole, and also receive a dick into your own butthole.
Yes,
That's
the best.
You receive 2 points for penetrating somebody else's asshole, and you get 1 point for penetrating your ass or getting your asshole penetrated.
Yep.
So if you end up in the middle of a sandwich, it's
The best scenario.
Yeah, it's
that's the best place to be.
and this is a successive number of rounds until somebody reaches like a certain score limit. I think it's like 10 or
Something like
15 or
that,
something
whatever
like
it is, yeah.
And the hook, the lilt, if you will, is that at the end of every round, the number of points you score in that round adds another like inch to your dick.
Yep.
So by the end of the game, you're this giant floppy dick to the point where you can even accidentally get your own dick in your own butthole.
And you don't want to do that. You don't want
to
dick yourself
because then you don't score any points.
Yeah.
So you're the cheese stands alone basically. What's really fun too is like if you're doing a 3-player match, which we were doing for a while, 2 people can fuck each other in like an endless loop,
and the third guy can't get any points.
The third dick that doesn't get any points.
Now, okay, this is important. This is important because I went up to play this game for the first time. There was another guy that was there.
Patrick.
I think he was an indie dev, right?
He is an indie dev. Yeah. Gergamoth, I believe, is the game.
Yeah, very nice guy, and he was there, and I had just met him. I was like, "Hi, Patrick. It's very nice to meet you. I'm Nick." And then I was like, "All right, let's sit down and play Genital Jousting." Okay, so I sit on the couch, and he was like, "Okay. Oh, by the way, there's only 2 controllers, but if there's 4 players, you can split the controller down the middle because all you need is an analog stick to play."
So 4 controllers gets you 8 players.
Yeah, 4 controllers get you 8 players, 2 players per controller. So I sat down next to him and was like, "All right, we'll share a controller." We start loading it up, and then I realized I was like, "Oh shit, I'm sitting on the wrong side of you. My character is on the other side of the controller." I was like, "Oh shit. Well, it's too late. The game's already started." I was like, "I'm gonna have to reach around." So I played the entire match like this with my arm like in front of him on the left side of the controller on his right, giving him the old reach around.
Yeah.
So we got to know each other quite well.
There's actually some like really good dick physics going on here.
Yeah, there is.
They flop around quite mightily.
Especially when they get more lengthy. You can the best thing is you can use your balls to protect your asshole. Like when someone's going in, you can kind of wiggle your ass right in front of them so the head goes between the shaft and the balls so they can't get around to the butthole.
It's great too because you'd think like stepping into this, you'd think you'd want to be protecting your asshole. but like you kind of end up in these points where you're like wiggling your balls around, being like, "All right, Nick,
Presenting yourself.
Get my asshole.
Well, so the thing is, you want to be
Bro,
penetrated.
get my asshole."
You want to be penetrated by anyone who isn't in first place,
Right.
Because you don't want them to get
You
points.
don't want, if there's one dick that's having too much fun, you gotta kind of box them out
Yep.
from having more fun
Yep.
by dicking each other.
And
People probably think we're making this shit up.
this
Yeah,
is
no,
a
this
game. This is a game.
I swear to God, Google genital jousting.
Is this
will come up.
3D?
No, it's
No.
it's top down. So you're looking top down on like I'll draw you. I
It's
can
a very
draw you a picture.
simplistic,
I don't
very
need a
colorful-
picture.
Draw you a picture of what one of the dicks looks like. It looks
Alright,
like
I can
this.
confirm that if you Google genital jousting, it's safe.
Yeah,
And then
it's-
here's the
it's safe.
butthole.
It's safe.
That's what a
Except
dick
for
looks
this-
like.
Okay.
Oh,
now-
if you go too
thank you for
far,
the-
it's not safe.
Yeah, don't
Thank you for the visual.
just Google genital jousting and don't scroll past the first.
No, it's really.
Don't scroll past the fold on the
This-
image results.
This is gonna be the kind of game that we will want to get and do streams of every once in a while. It's a really fun, quick,
Dude,
easy.
I'll be
But-
honest. I don't think
But
we can stream this.
butthole.
Why not?
I talked to the developer. This is not just a multiplayer game. They're in the process of the genital jousting part of this game is just a section. They are in the process of creating a story-driven single-player mode. Yeah, I don't know to what extent that will be, but they're in the process. It is coming out later this year. And they will also, I don't think I told you this, Crispy, they are going to have a Rocket League type mode in the game. I
Like
don't
the-
know. That's all he said. He said they are going to have a Rocket
What does
League
that
type
mean?
mode.
Like soccer, but with dicks?
I guess so.
What's going to explode when you make a goal?
I don't know. The penis at the end of genital jousting, the longest dick is flopping around, spraying liquid of some sort.
It's blue. There's nothing unseemly. It's blue. Yeah, it's great. All the dicks wear like tank tops and like shirts.
Yeah,
and
they go
stuff,
like
so
polo. They're almost like polos. Yeah.
They look very professional.
Don't worry, all the dicks wear polos. I think the best part is the character selection screen where it's, usually it's like push A to join,
yeah.
but this time it says push A to consent.
No, it says
Push-
press up to consent.
press up to consent.
Oh,
Yep.
God.
And you have to hold it for a second.
I
so-
swear
Yeah.
to God,
So
There's no
mistaking.
mistaking. You are consenting.
I swear to God, I felt really uncomfortable for a minute because I thought I can't confirm. I think there was like a someone had brought like their son.
Oh no. So what happened was
There was like a
it was me. It
15-year-old
was me, you, and Patrick, and we
There
were
it is.
playing. We were playing the game, and this small, I would assume 8-year-old boy walks up behind us, and he says, "Hey, what game is this?" And we were like, it's kind of like Snake. And he was like, we're like, the goal is to get the other one. And he was like, can I play? And we were like, we're in
It's
the
like-
middle of a
it's
round,
like
so you.
tag, but for grown-ups.
You're like, we're in the middle of a round, so
Yes.
you can't
We are
join.
adults
Yeah.
playing this.
And then not a second later, his mom comes and she's like, she's like, Billy, let's play a different game. And she swooped him away.
I want you to know, everybody. I want everybody to know, if anybody out there was watching the Devolver Digital stream,
You could
today,
probably see us in the
Yeah,
background.
We were in the background yelling about like, Nick, get my asshole! Like,
Pretty much.
the couch.
no, Nolan, don't fuck me!
The couch for playing genital jousting was positioned
Right behind.
directly behind the couch where they were doing the Devolver Digital live stream.
Yep.
Great.
And they had devs on talking about their game. In fact, Bob was on there earlier today to talk about Refactor. And I just realized it's about halfway through our game that we're sitting directly right behind the couch. The camera's facing the couch. They're doing interviews, and we're behind yelling at each other about dicks.
Mm-hmm.
So you may see us on there.
Assholes.
Dicks and assholes. Okay.
It was great. It was great.
It was great.
I can't wait for the vagina DLC.
It was. I didn't expect this.
Comes
at
with a free
E3.
pair of scissors.
All right.
I have expected them to be handing out like promotional.
Did somebody not
dildos.
use their drink ticket?
That might have been me.
What a
It's
douche.
free beer. You're leaving free beer on the table.
This is what we talked about. We were literally talking about drinking beer, and I said I don't do it often, but if someone offers me a free beer, I'm not going to refuse it.
Right? That'd just be rude.
Okay.
All right. I want to move down the list.
Okay.
Can I mention one for 2 minutes?
Sure.
Yes.
Go.
I went
You
back to
have
VR.
Mm-hmm.
I played the Batman experience.
Batman.
It is not a game. It is an experience. That being said, it's Batman, and I had so much more fun than the Final Fantasy demo because I was fanboying out. It starts with you at a piano. You can actually pick up the picture of your parents. Alfred scared the shit out of me when he came out of my back.
Does
my
a single
blind side.
tear drop onto the photo?
That would be cool. But Alfred scared me, and I
No,
threw the
Batman
picture at
doesn't-
his face.
Nice.
And I fully expected it to go through, but it bounced off the bridge of his nose. And the lady was horrified with my actions. I told her, you don't sneak up on Batman in his blind spot.
Yeah.
Then you start going down into this long tunnel, and you start putting on all his
Do you
gear.
go through the grandfather clock?
No, it's actually you play the piano in the elevator in this one.
Oh, god damn it.
But it was so cool because like this is the
Christopher
first.
Nolan's Batman.
Well, this is the first time I felt so immersed with it because like when you're going down and like here's the belt, put it on. I'm like, oh shit, put this on. Put on these gloves. Put your hands in these things. Twist it. The gloves come on your hands. I put on the cowl. They actually make you do this for the cowl. You know, like putting on a cap, but it's so much better because it's Batman. You throw batarangs. You use the grappling hook, and it's nothing, but at the same time, it's so much
And that's
more
what
well done.
that's what they're basing. That's what they're going for. Is the nostalgia factor. The fanboys wanting to enjoy themselves. With
Yeah,
this
but the
game.
thing is, the graphics were also really well done. It's more so than the Final Fantasy 15 demo where they took a region from the game. When it was specifically made for the VR, it was great because when I finally got to the bottom level and I looked over my left shoulder, I was like, "Oh, look, the dinosaur!" And I look over the right, "Oh, the penny!"
Nice.
Yeah, so it was
Oh, they
pretty
had
cool.
all that?
They had all that, yeah.
Oh, of course.
So
Well, I mean,
yeah, that
I
was-
mean, if
say
I say of course, but I mean, if anybody's gonna make the Batcave, why would they not have those in there?
yeah, but the thing is,
Did they have the giant Joker card?
I did not find that because my demo ended, but the thing is, those two things are behind you. So you actually have to fully turn and look, and though it's been modeled so that you get that full 360 experience. So it shows that when you have something done well and you have the right franchise or the right interest, that it could be interesting and fun. Like I said, it was nothing, and yet I still had a blast with it.
I still want to know what exactly convinced Rocksteady to stay on. Like, why are they working on this after saying that Arkham Knight was they're done with Batman? I know it's not really a game. It's not really a game, but part of their team is still sitting there working on a Batman game.
it's not really a game.
I know it's not really a game, but
Oh, and it is all old
Probably-
assets.
Probably, yeah. It's
Well, it's
they didn't have to make that much. I mean, they've already made the Batcave in Arkham Origins.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure Sony just threw a shit ton of money at them and was like, "Hey, can we get something Batman on our VR thingy? It'll sell like hotcakes."
Can I talk about another superhero game?
Depends on which one.
The Fractured Butthole.
Fractured butthole.
I got
buttholes tonight.
Yeah, there is. I got to see some behind the scenes gameplay. It was essentially what we saw in the Ubisoft conference, and then a little more. So, for example, they still did the Speedster, but I did get to see some of the other classes. They didn't show them; they were still grayed out, but they hovered over them. There was like an assassin. There was, I think, a ninja maybe was one of them. I can't remember them all. I should have wrote them down, but it's not like they held. It's not like they talked about them for 5 minutes. They just quickly the cursor over them. They're like, look, we have other classes, and we're gonna go Speedster. And I was like, okay. So the Speedster's backstory was the same as it was, but it was different. When the character leaves his room, instead of immediately going to his parents, he encounters burglars that have broken into the house. But the burglars didn't know that they were encountering a speedster. And so you go into a fight with them, and it's kind of like this tutorial. I'm sure it will be slightly different for other backstories. So this is the speedster. If there was like the more powerful one, and I can't remember the class name. But yeah, like he was doing a fight with them, and he did some really like fast attack as a speedster. It was like run back and forth and punch them. And he was talking about how he runs so fast he can like punch through atoms or whatever, something like that. The voiceover saying that. And as soon as he punched the guy, he's like, "Oh shit, my atoms!" like just stuff like that. And then like you beat up the two guys, and then like a third guy comes out of the bathroom. And he was like, "I just took a shit and I'm gonna shit on you." And he says something weird like that. And then they did the ultimate attack, the multiverse strike, which is what we saw in the conference when he does like the billion punches, and then instantly kills him. And he was like, he said he was just too speedy.
When so like in the first game when they were doing like quote unquote magic and stuff like that, it was always like Thunderbolt was like throw a bucket of water on them and then like drop a car battery with some jumper cables in the water. Like Were
So
they doing that, or were these actually? Like,
so these
superpowers?
were kind of actually superpowers, and I think the thing is it's all in their imagination type deal, so it's not actually happening.
for
But
sure.
yeah, whatever. But yeah, so no, on the screen it does
They're
seem like they're
stylizing them as actual superpowers.
exactly. So an interesting thing is you can actually change classes in the game. You can go back to Cartman and change classes if you want to after a while. You can call in superheroes to help you out. So there was a scene where they were running around the town and there was like a treasure chest up on a house, but you couldn't reach there. So you called in the human kite, and so he shows up, and you have the ability. Your farts are very powerful, and the kite can fly. So you do something that they called fartcore. And
Parkour, like parkour.
exactly, jumping between the houses, and it's a QTE. You have to time it properly to fart back and forth. There you go. To fart back and forth between the buildings to get up to the roof and whatever. There was this great. So you meet up with the people who are already in combat. It's Kun and friends versus I can't remember what they're called, like the Wonder something or whatever. And they're fighting and they're like blah blah blah. You left Kun and friends and you abandoned us. And then like Timmy shows up and he's in a wheelchair obviously, and he's also in a suit and he rolls forward and then he's like, Codman, you've been doing this all incorrectly. Like he's telepathically talking. Yeah, he's Professor X, and he's just like straight up like deep voice like Codman, you're wrong, and blah blah blah. And then like it kind of and then he's like all serious, and it comes out, and he just makes this happy face, and Cartman's like, he just called me an asshole, get him! Like. This was clearly in Cartman's head, and then he goes to punch him, but he was just like a hologram. And then you see Timmy off in the background. He's like, and he like scoots away on his wheelchair. So something I learned from this, which I couldn't really tell from what we saw before, but movement, while it is a grid-based system, you're not like limited to move here and then make your attack. You can kind of move around and decide, I want to move here. Now I changed my mind. I'm going to move over here and make my attack. Because sometimes you can't really be sure who your attack might affect, because attacks have range and they sometimes attack multiple people at the same time. There was one segment during the fight. They were in the middle of a fight, and as soon as the move ended, one of them was like, car, and they all moved out of the street. And then like the guy was like, stop playing in the street, you fucking kids. And they were like, fuck you, it's Civil War. And then they got back in the street when he drove past and started up the battle again. Yeah. And then so after the combat was finished, Cartman had ran after Timmy to go and catch him. And so they catch up with Cartman, and he's like, "Oh, guys, I couldn't stop Timmy. He raped my mind." and then just because he's telepathic, and yeah, and so I don't know. It's looking like it's going to be a lot more in depth than the previous game was. There's a lot more element to it. Still the same great South Park humor. Coming out December 6th. I'm super.
Same great taste.
Yeah, I'm super excited for it.
I actually played a lot of games today, like more than I did like at E3 last year.
Chris Davis played 5 games today. That is more games than he's played in the last 4 E3s combined.
Pretty much.
Good for
Feels
you,
like it.
Chris.
What did you play today, Chris Davis? You've played 5 games at E3 ever. What did you pick?
Well, I first played Pac-Man 256 with Nolan,
Mm-hmm,
Cool.
which was fun. But I made an appointment to go see Raid. Raid World War II is a game in development over at a Starbreeze studio called Lion Game Lion. They're relatively new. They've only been around for about 2 years.
Did you say a Starbreeze studio?
Yes. Starbreeze is a publisher. They have several studios, like Overkill, for example. Anyway.
Starbreeze is a publisher now?
Yeah.
I guess so.
And
When did this happen?
And a hardware manufacturer.
I know that.
Well,
But I thought
not
they were
right
just-
now, because evidently Star VR is kind of on hold. But
Raid, talk about Raid.
Raid is it's a first person shooter set in World War II. It's a 4-player co-op online. It's basically like a combination of 2 classic films, Kelly's Heroes and The Dirty Dozen.
Okay.
You play as this set of 4 soldiers that were on death row, and you're sent out together on tasks to do missions for the Allies.
Mhm.
But this is from Lion Game Lion, and they helped do a lot of the DLC for Payday 2. So
that's why you played it.
It's half of a kind of traditional World War II objective-based shooter, combined with this kind of heist element. So, in the demo that we had, and by the way, this game has only been in development for about 8 months.
And it's already playable at E3?
Yeah, it's playable. It's looking all right. It's got issues, but it's got potential. In the level that I played, you were storming a flak tower in Germany. And you go in there, and there's multiple objectives you have to procedurally do, like blow open the gate and hold off the a German offensive against you and things like that. But it's got this random element to it that involves a heist. So, say a train car happens to randomly spawn when you decide to play that level.
Mm-hmm.
That train car may be filled with gold or jewels or something like that. And you can choose the risk-reward scenario of taking as much of that gold as possible and keeping it with you as you complete the mission. This cash can be used to unlock character customization and customization weapons and things like that. Kind of like Payday. It's very class-based, too. It's going to have 4 classes that Recon, Assault, I forget what the I is, Infiltrator, and Defender, I believe. So spelling out Raid. And you had to work together as a team.
It turns out with a game called Raid World War II, it's actually hard to find images on Google. So all I'm getting are actual World War II photos.
Well, the game just recently got announced.
Yeah,
so
but
it doesn't have much of a presence.
I refuse to believe that they don't have some kind of Okay, here we go. I found some stuff.
Well, anyway.
I think.
Yeah, there is a trailer out there. It is animated. It's not representative of the game as a whole. But it's fun. You're working through these levels, mowing down Nazis, and trying to build up this kind of like Swiss bank account for yourself that you can use to spend on customization. And then there's a leveling system that goes with it that encourages you to upgrade your skill trees, because there's 2 sub-skill trees for each class. Some focus on medic, some are assault, things like that. They can't go into specifics just yet because they're 8 months in.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It's pretty fun. It feels like like Where Eagles Dare, or like a classic World War II shoot 'em up film. And I'm optimistic.
What game did you just reference?
Where Eagles Dare.
Is that a game?
That was a film.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I was like, okay. I'm not familiar with that one.
It was a film in which a team of commandos go up to a German mountain where there's a retreat, and they try to just blow it up and kill a bunch of German
Nazis?
generals and things like that.
Okay.
It's a good film.
So you played the Raid.
Yeah.
Or is it Raid or the Raid? Whatever.
Raid. World War II. Technically.
That's 2 games I know you've played.
Okay.
Just real quick, what are the other 3?
Well,
I know you said you played 5 today, right?
5 at E3.
Okay, sorry, 5 total.
At E3.
What are the other 3?
I played Ghost Recon Wildlands.
Oh, how did that go?
Surprised you didn't bring that up sooner.
I want to be
You led with Raid and you played Ghost Recon Wildlands.
Because Raid is a new IP. It's an unknown element. I thought that'd be interesting to talk about.
Sure. But Wildlands has already come up once in a podcast since the start of the week.
So I played at the Microsoft booth. At the Microsoft booth, it's not playing on Xbox Ones. It's playing on PCs, quote-unquote, representative of Xbox One specs.
Okay, so they just lowered the specs on them.
Such horseshit, because that game was running 60 frames per second. There's no way that game is going to run 60 when the game finally launches.
Okay.
Yeah.
Not to mention, it was buggy as hell.
Buggy as hell. Huh?
There were civilians that were clipping through walls. There were textures that were messing up everywhere. There were explosions that would flicker as they happen. It's just it's not good.
So that demo we saw at the conference was a very controlled,
very controlled,
very touched up version of the demo.
But
when is this game even supposed to launch?
March 7th of next year.
Oh well, they have some time.
Which is pretty much
right?
exactly a year after the Division launched, which is weird. But anyway, but it is pretty much exactly what we've seen. It's a up to 4-player co-op, single player also encouraged. Game in which you're raiding drug cartels, labs, and bases throughout Bolivia. It kind of plays like a cross between Far Cry and Mercenaries. So the world is structured into various different regions. Each one has a difficulty level, but it also has a boss level, a boss somewhere in there. And you have to complete objectives and clear out some territory to find out who the boss is, and then you can go after the boss.
Isn't that kind of what was going on the other day? That they were trying to go after in the conference. They were trying to have to go after that one guy.
The demo in the conference is basically the second half of the demo.
Yeah, like they had already figured out who they were going after, and now they were going after him. Okay.
The demo that's publicly playable is the one. It gives you the information about that boss.
Okay, I see.
So, but yeah, you work together. You first in the demo. You spawn and you find a lieutenant of the boss.
Yeah.
And the goal is to find out what happened to about 300 people that have been disappearing over the past few years. It's kind of like a take on the... I don't know if you'll remember the incident in Mexico where the students just disappeared.
From the bus. They were on a bus and they just
bus.
got taken.
Yeah, they just got taken and disappeared.
Don't recall that.
Yeah, you should look it up. It's pretty fucking tragic. But yeah, you find a lieutenant. You can run in and grab him and interrogate him, and then you use that information to find this enemy base, which will have information on where you can find the boss.
Okay.
And then supposedly you would go on and take out the boss any way you please.
Gotcha. But it's completely open in the same way as Far Cry, right? Where you can kind of accomplish objectives and explore and do whatever you want.
It seems so far. The demo was kind of tightly controlled.
Yeah.
Because they really want you to go through this strict path and go do these objectives in this order. But you do seem to have that level of freedom. The game does encourage you to divide and conquer, to scout out your objectives well before you actually attack.
Which is why I thought it was very reminiscent of fucking GTA 5, the heist missions. Because there were literally moments where you were, in the demo, they were splitting up, like the 4-person team was splitting up into 2 groups, and they were going into entirely different separate areas, locations in the base to accomplish objectives, and then reconverging, after like the guy took off running, suddenly like they had to improvise and jump on motorcycles, and they kind of converge back together on like chasing him through the street. Like that stuff looks really cool.
Yeah.
I'm hoping it really is I hope there's still that. I hope that freedom isn't just an illusion there. Like I hope that's.
I'm hoping not too. It doesn't seem like if you, for example, failed to or you killed the lieutenant, that it would be a fail condition.
Yeah. And
you have to reset. But at the same time, I don't know just yet. I don't think I can trust this game just yet. It was very buggy.
Well, the fact that they announced it last year and we didn't hear a word about it, and then they showed it this year, and something might be a little off. Yeah. I don't know.
The game was very buggy. The combat felt The guns didn't really feel like they had much oomph to them. There wasn't very much feedback to you. And you kind of felt overpowered in a way. I mean, we were mowing down like a base of like 30 or 40 dudes. Never felt threatened.
Do you think they just made it easier for the show floor?
Possibly.
They do that a lot.
I mean, that's
it would not surprise me in the slightest.
Yeah. I mean, I'll play it. I have my reservations about it. I'm hopeful. But at this point, it wasn't that good a demo.
Gotcha.
Cool.
So there's a game that I like to talk about for a second.
Okay, go ahead.
I didn't play this game. I actually watched Crispy play this game.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't even know about it. I wouldn't have known about it if it weren't for Crispy. So I kind of let Crispy talk about it, I guess. That is the Turing Test.
Turing.
Oh, yeah, I saw that
Turing
one.
Test.
I don't know really what to say about this game. It seems like it's still in a really early state. It's a 3D. I mean, it's a first-person environment puzzle game. You're just moving from chamber to chamber, and the puzzles.
Very Portal meets Talos Principle.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, it's the puzzles all revolve around room switches. So there's all these junction boxes, and you basically can either there are these cubes you can pick up and plug into the boxes to complete a circuit, or there will be these charges that are kind of independent from those cubes that you can manipulate with this gun you have. So you can suck them in and you can shoot them out. The main difference is with the boxes, you have to physically pick them up and move them yourself. The gun, you can suck them in from across the room as long as you have a line of sight, and you can shoot them across the room again as long as you have a line of sight. So it becomes this big logic puzzle of moving through different rooms where they'll each have circuits where you need a cube to open this door, but you also need to get that charge into the next room somehow to open another door. It's weird. There's not a whole lot going on. It didn't even sound like all the sound effects are in the game yet. And I got to what I assume is the end of the demo. I did like 5 or 6 of these room puzzles. And then I walked into a room where it just kind of like goes black. And I think the demo was supposed to fade out and end there. But instead of that happening, I just fell out of the map. Kept falling.
Fell through the world.
Forever.
You sure that wasn't the Turing test itself?
I don't know. It's apparently it's called the Turing Test because the story is you play this astronaut lady who's going to an International Space Agency base on Europa, and they weren't very specific, but for whatever reason she becomes suspicious of the agency's activities on this base, and in order to investigate it, she has to move through a section of this base that is designed to be a Turing test. These are supposed to be spatial reasoning and logic problems that only a sentient human can solve.
Okay.
Like a machine can't solve these.
Okay.
Apparently there's supposed to be a story to it, but there was absolutely no indication of that whatsoever in the demo. Like I said, it was a little borky, but the mechanics are there. Like the puzzle mechanics are solid. The farther you got into it, the more just like kind of
it seemed to have that natural progression too, like where it starts super simple and then
it has to start really easy and then kind of ramp up from there.
I thought it was really cool though.
It did look really cool. It has a nice sci-fi aesthetic. It was in the Xbox booth, so it's coming to Xbox One and PC, I believe. It might be coming to PS4.
And Portal I think started I don't want to call it a movement, but it seems like it kind of birthed a genre in and of itself.
Yeah.
Talos Principle and like Talos, there's other games that have tried to ape it and create their own version of it, but the Talos Principle is the next big one, following Portable, and I feel like if it has the polish and the complexity of it continues to ramp up at a nice pace, and it changes things up a bit. As the game progresses, I feel like this has the potential to be the next big puzzle,
or even if it has like an interesting story, because it sounds like the story is set up to be a real introspective, kind of trippy, sort of weird sci-fi thriller piece. There was another environmental first-person puzzle game we saw later in the evening called The Museum of Simulation Technology.
Oh, that was the
but we didn't actually get to play it, so I don't really want to waste that much time talking about it, but look it up. It's called the Museum of Simulation Technology. Look it up. It's a really cool idea.
Mix, right?
It was at the Mix. Yeah, it's a really cool idea, but we didn't really get to play it, so let's not waste that much time on it. I just wanted to throw that out there, though.
Speaking of games that we didn't get to play, what we saw, Tim and I went over to the Devolver Digital booth, and we saw a pretty interesting game. It's called Zombie Night Terror. You might have heard of it in the past.
We saw it at PAX South.
Oh, you did?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
You can talk about it though.
I mean, I did want to mention it. I think it's really cool because it's
what is it called?
Zombie Night Terror. It is basically Lemmings with zombies.
I like Lemmings.
Lemmings is a great game.
This is the one where you're looking at like the side of the house and like the zombies are moving around in the house.
Yep.
Yeah, you're directing these zombies throughout the map, but in a way that's like Lemmings.
Yeah.
So you direct zombies into groups of humans, they kill the humans, they turn into zombies, and you use those as fodder and control them throughout the map in order to wipe out everything you see.
Cool.
Right.
And
It looks cool. I like the aesthetic.
yeah,
And-
it's
And the gameplay gets interesting because you have to overwhelm certain humans because they will have weapons. They'll start taking down your zombies. So you need enough zombies to get to them.
To clarify, you want the zombies to kill the people.
Yes, you are the zombies.
Yeah.
And excuse me, you do have powers like you said, but it also costs DNA to use. So, for example, if you wanted an overseer who directs the zombies, you need to use one DNA.
And if I recall correctly, an overseer is the guy who kind of just points the zombies and he's like, "Go this way."
yeah,
right?
it's the same as the lemming that kind of blocks his hand out and forces him to go back.
Yeah.
But the thing is, if you use too much of your DNA, say for more future levels, you actually have to sacrifice some of your zombies. You can give up one zombie for one DNA, and sometimes it can make all the difference. But there will be sections where you need a certain amount of zombies to, say, break the floor out with weight or trash down the door. And so you're trying to manage, how can I get this many zombies into this area? One figure, like there might be 10 in the as many as you need in the room, but they're so scattered that you still need an overseer to kind of direct them to the right spot. And then the last ability we saw wasn't a DNA ability, but it was a pickup in the world where it's basically a virus that you could spread. So there were two characters that were just isolated, and it's possible to just infect them, and you'll get your zombies that way because there's no way a zombie can actually reach them themselves. But it helps you get 100% clear for the level.
Gotcha. Everybody quiet for a second. What is...
Air purifier.
What?
Air purifier.
So are you talking about the air noise? Like,
No. You don't hear... I hear like music.
there might be someone across the street that was playing music the other day. So
I don't.
This is a college neighborhood. People stay up late. You're lucky the pan flute guy isn't playing his pan flute right now.
I might be hearing a pan flute right
There was
now.
a pan flute guy. No, you would know if it was the pan flute
I
guy.
played one more game on the show floor. I kind of wanted to very quickly talk about.
Okay.
It was in the Square Enix section, and I don't know if you've heard it before. It's called I Am Setsuna.
Yes, that looked really good.
Yeah, so it's an RPG.
that's the one that supposedly looks like Chrono Trigger, right?
plays like it.
It doesn't. I mean, it looks like a much more advanced Chrono Trigger because it's 3-dimensional sprites and
It's
I
a
mean,
JRPG.
yeah, it's
Yes.
a JRPG. And so I only played it for a little while. I think honestly,
play this tomorrow.
I think what's on the show floor is the whole game.
Really?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it is. But the thing is, you play through the tutorial section, and then it starts a very long credit sequence, which I think leads into the game. But I was sitting there for like a little while, and I was like, I kind of feel bad because the guy behind me wants to play, and I have other things I want to see, so I just stopped there. But so yeah, it's kind of also the tutorial is very poorly done because every time it tells you about a new like item or new thing you can do, it's like a fucking page of text.
Yeah.
It's like that's just not properly done. You want to make things as simple as possible. But anyway, you're a character. You're running around a world. You fight creatures. You can sneak up on these creatures. If you do, you start with a full attack gauge and a SP bar. Which can help you to make the first attack, and you use more powerful attacks to get the jump on enemies.
This was that game that was literally like its mission statement was to bring back classic JRPGs.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so, battle. The good thing is, battles. You physically see the enemies in the world. Once you go into combat, it just locks the camera in place. The weird thing is, I couldn't really understand is the enemies were kind of moving around on the battlefield, but I couldn't move. I could change who I was targeting, but I couldn't physically move. So I don't know if that was intended. I wasn't sure. The people that were there didn't know a single thing about the game, so they weren't very helpful. There was no developers, anybody there representing the
You're
game.
killing me, Nolan. Maybe I don't want to play this.
I mean, you should check it out, but I definitely enjoyed it. One of the weird things was it was very Final Fantasy music. Like, it sounded like just almost like straight rip-offs. And I know it's being published by Square Enix.
Is Nobuo Uematsu doing the music?
I don't know. But
I'm going to find out.
Yeah, you Google that. I'd be curious to know. But like, if you go and play it, the first thing you'll notice, you're like, wow, this is like when you defeat someone in battle. Like, this is definitely like a Final Fantasy fanfare. Like, it's very much Final Fantasy music, which I don't mind because I love Final Fantasy music. But I was just that's one of the things I wanted to talk to a developer to be like, hey, is this legal? Like, how are y'all doing this? That you're like almost copying Final Fantasy music. But
it does not look like he
Yeah.
is doing... Wait.
I mean, it's not a big deal.
Yeah, it's not
I would definitely say it's worth checking out. I mean, it does come out next month. But yeah, I really enjoyed what I played of it.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, maybe I'll stop by and play. You said this in the Square Enix booth?
Yep. It's over there with like Deus Ex and stuff. It's in the what hall is that? The West Hall?
Yeah.
South Hall.
South.
Sorry,
I
South
can't
Hall.
ever remember. South Hall.
Square
Right.
Enix.
Yeah, right at the front on the right side. Yeah.
Okay. Any other small games do you want to talk about?
I have 3 small games I would like to.
3?
Are these from tonight
Uh,
or is from the show floor?
Because we can
Both.
talk about the mix separately in a second.
Yeah.
Okay.
Talking
I'll
about show
mention
floor.
the one last game I played because we can't talk about Zelda.
Okay.
It's a little game. It's being developed by Marvelous. It's called Fate Extella: The Umbral Star.
Oh, is this in the Xseed?
This is over in Xseed.
Yeah.
Yes. It is. I don't know if y'all have heard of the Fate Stay Night series. It's an anime series from a visual novel, from a manga. This is them taking that formula or taking those characters from Fate Stay Night and turning it into a Dynasty Warriors style Mosu game.
Original characters. They're actually separate, but someone's going to say it.
Okay.
New characters, but go on.
Well, I know it includes Saber.
Different saber.
Different Saber? There's multiple Sabers? I didn't know this.
Just go.
Anyway, it's a Mosu clone. Plays very much like a Mosu.
Muso.
Muso.
What is
Mosu,
The
Mosu.
Warriors.
Warriors.
Muso.
Dynasty Warriors,
Yeah.
Samurai Warriors.
Oh, I didn't know they had a name.
It's a genre. It's basically you've got this big ass battlefield. You've got a bunch of cannon fodder you can just mow through, and you complete. You go kill bosses and try to dominate the battlefield.
Gotcha.
In this one, you play as these characters in a manner that's kind of like Sinran Kagura Estival Versus. You go through. You're just destroying all the dudes on the map. You are killing gatekeepers called aggressors that will cause more enemies to spawn in the area, and you have the ability to transform and become temporarily more powerful. But you have a different weapon when you transform, so you have to adjust your tactics. Thing I like about it is that it is the Mosu formula, but it's very, very fast. It is really built on building up a combo meter really, really quickly and just destroying enemies like that. It is very engaging, actually. I haven't played a Warriors title since 3. So, and that was like 15 years ago at this point.
Yeah.
So I'm actually kind of interested in it. I need to
What's
look
it called
more.
again?
Fate Extella: The Umbral Star. It's being developed by Marvelous.
Yep.
It's coming out.
How is anyone ever
later
going to
this
remember
year.
that?
Anime fans.
Yeah, Fate /
Fucking
Extella.
anime fans, nerds.
Yeah. But no, it was
Put them there with the blinkies.
Goddamn blinkies.
It was actually quite fun, and I might look at game flying at least.
Cool. All right. Why don't we quickly talk about some of the games we played at the Mix?
Sure.
Briefly, we went. So after the show floor closed tonight, we went to a indie after party, E3 after party thing called the Mix. It was actually really cool. It was set up on the roof of a hotel just near the convention center. Bob was featured there. He had Refactor there, and there was a whole bunch of just indie developers up there.
Dude, it was a gold mine for finding unknown great games.
It was basically like the indie mega booth from PAX on the roof of a hotel, and probably twice as large.
Yep.
There were a lot of really great games, and we didn't obviously have an opportunity to play every single one of them. It was pretty crowded, and the demos themselves take some time to play, so we kind of picked and choose which ones we played.
That was the worst part because there was at least like 30 games there, and we were there for 2 hours, and I only played like 6 games.
Yeah,
and
I
so
only
it was
played 4.
it was a factor of walking around and looking at a game for about 10 seconds and judging should I spend my time playing this, because I knew we had limited time there.
Yeah,
and that was the only bad thing about that.
I will start by saying I'm kind of ashamed to admit it, but this was actually my first time really getting hands on with Refactor.
I mean, that's not as shameful. I mean, Bob doesn't just give out codes for the game.
Yeah, I know, but like we've had opportunities to play it before, and I've been to several PAXs where he's been showing it. Usually I'm with Emily, and Emily wanted to try it, so I was like, oh yeah, you play it. I've been watching Bob kind of develop this from the ground up for a while now. I just for whatever reason, this was my first time getting my hands on it, and that game is turning out really well.
Yep.
I'm really excited to see what else they
Did
have.
you beat the demo?
I got to the boss and then I broke it.
Oh, that sucks.
But I'm really really liking the style. I'm really curious because I feel like we've seen the factory level they've been working on for so long. I'm really excited. I know they have other levels they're working on.
Yep.
I'm really excited to see what else they have up their sleeve because that game is just coming to get conceptually came together really, really beautifully. And a lot of people walk by that game and it's so unique. They're like, what is that?
Yeah.
Because it's a platformer where you're playing as Tetris pieces. Like that's just crazy. So obviously we've talked about Refactor aka Tetropolis for those who aren't familiar for a while. So if you haven't heard about it, check it out. Check out Next Gen Pants' website. I'm sure they have stuff about it.
Yep.
But yeah, I played that tonight for the first time. Actually spent about 20-25 minutes with it. Really enjoying it.
Definitely.
And I'm very much looking forward to playing that game when it's finished. But that's neither here nor there. Let's talk about some of the other games we played from other developers whom we don't know.
So this is kind of a weird one. Crispy and I played Project Perfect Citizen. Or Crispy played, I watched.
That's the one that was on the
it was on a CRT. Yeah. So the thing is, that was a student project from some guys who were just graduating. So that was their final game.
There were a lot of people up there that had their student projects that they had just kept developing.
And the good thing about that is a lot of that means they're free games a lot of the time.
Yeah.
Like this one, this Project Perfect Citizen. If you hear about it and you like it, you can go and download it and play it now for free.
Also, strangely enough, so there were 3 or 4 developers that were in that same boat that I talked to. One of which, this is the first, literally told me he does it because he's a college student. He was like, I actually don't have a PS4, so when my game comes out, I want to be able to play it.
Nice.
I was like, wait, what? Nice. Yeah, I don't have money. I don't have a PS4.
So Project Perfect Citizen, you play a essentially NSA agent, and you've been assigned the task determining the innocence or guilt of some people. So an AI has gone through and flagged people as being guilty, and now you go in and you determine if that's true or not. So Crispy,
you kind of take the role of an Edward Snowden type person working for a CIA like agency, and you're actually looking at a network of people. And as you're clicking through them, it's showing you text messages, like text conversations that they've had. And each one of these suspects has a specific code number designation, and everything in the text message is linked to those code numbers. So you're trying to figure out who's talking to who. You're going through all these different conversations. You form connections. You make these manual connections between the different people. And then you go through and you find which connections are benign and or which interactions are benign and which ones are threatening. So there will be ones where it's like, hey, I'm in town on Saturday night. Well, cool, we should hang out. Cool. Or like, hey, I thought, this was really cool. It was nice seeing you. Oh, cool. And then there's one where it's like, hey, did you get that shipment I sent you? Yeah, I got it. I sold it. Made bank. So that's a little suspicious.
Yeah.
And you try to determine from these conversations who the center of this network is. Like, who is the main person? Who's the big fish here? Once you flag that person, you submit it, and the agency will say, okay, this is our suspect. We're gonna give you remote access to his computer. So then you're on his desktop. You can look at his emails. You can go through his files.
Can you watch his porn?
If he had some.
If he had some, yeah.
In this version.
Yeah, his dick butt. And you basically comb through his computer, and then the mission I played was a training mission, so there was literally a file in his file section that was marked terrorism. So when you figure out the password for that file and you get in, it has bomb making plans. It has plans of attack, like getaway routes. It shows all the different guns they're going to be using. It had schematics in there for 3D printed guns. And then you find these files, you flag them, and you submit them, and the game tells you, whether or not that was the right person. They're like, okay, yeah, you got the ringleader of this terrorist organization who was about to blow up an embassy in Germany, and good job. This was we arrested him. We found this, and this. It's really neat. It's almost her story.
Yeah, that's that was.
Maybe
So it's
not
a very story driven game in the sense
maybe
that
not quite as narrative as her story is, but yeah.
It's procedurally generated who the people look like and some of the content in those first texts. But once you get down into that person's email, into their desktop, all of that is completely written, all original story content they've created. They've created characters and given them backstory and stuff like that. So it's pretty. They spent a lot of time on this.
It was neat. I mean, especially for a student project. Like,
Yeah,
it was a really
definitely.
really cool idea, really well executed.
Cool.
I think we should talk about that one game, and then we should talk about Zelda.
You know what? I'm even gonna say right here. I think maybe the bulk of the Zelda conversation should still happen tomorrow.
Okay.
Sure. Well, I mean,
That way.
can I talk about? There's a few indie games that I can literally rattle off
There's
in like
one I really
under
wanna talk
under
about
a
right
minute each.
Sure. Go
So
ahead, rattle it up.
Numbo Jumbo was a weird one that I saw, and it's literally like it's a mobile game. It's one of those like kind of you have a bunch of numbers and you connect them to make a bigger number. So you have like 1, 1, 2, and you slide that because 1 + 1 = 2, kind of like that.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's a fun little game. It's kind of like those like almost gives you the feeling of Candy Crush or something
Yeah.
like that, but numbers. So you're actually thinking. Another one was Video Ball. It is I think up to 6 players, but I think we are doing it 4 players, where you are knocking balls back and forth across like a goal. It's a very simple, like sports almost like game, but it's a little more unique because you shoot the balls with a projectile that you can charge up. And if you charge it up really high, you can it shoots across really fast. I don't know. Fun game. You can check out that one. And the other one, Nick and I played Stifled.
Yes.
Which was a horror game the game is pitch black, and you see via almost like echolocation kind of, but the audio, the sound that creates the vision for you to see comes from your mouth.
Yeah.
Like you
Talking
literally
a
have to talk
microphone.
into a microphone.
What did you say when you? I'm wondering what people are saying when they're.
I was singing "The Bird Is the Word."
Really?
Yeah.
I'm
Because that put out a lot of pulses. I was like ba 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 ba. So like every time it did that, it would send out a pulse.
Couldn't the
Well,
monsters find
and
your
that's the
body?
thing. And so that the whole object of the game is there are enemies that are almost like the clickers from The Last of Us, that they're based on sound. So when they hear you, they come at you. So when I was in an area where there was no enemies, I was being very obnoxious.
You can always see when there's an enemy because they're red, and you can kind of see their
because they're making
echolocation.
noise, and the noise that they make is red. So it's very obvious when
When you make noise, it's white.
sometimes. I mean, sometimes they can sneak up on you.
Yeah.
That was a fun game.
It's funny because I'm so ingrained in doing the podcast. I was sitting here like testing 1, 2, testing, testing, and I was like, oh god, what am I doing?
It sounds like a 3D version of that game that you were playing.
Dark Echo.
yeah.
And
We actually
that's
talked
as
about
soon
that.
as I said that to him, he was like, "Yes, a lot of people have said that." When that game came out while they were in development of this game, and they were like, "That's really cool," but I think our game looks better.
It does.
The other one I wanted to talk about, and I know Crispy played this one, was Headlander.
Yeah.
That's from Double Fine, right?
Yeah, it's
is it
Double Fine. It's Double Fine and Adult Swim.
Yeah, so it's I know Adult Swim is publishing it. but
Double Fine was actually the
Okay, I didn't know
developer.
that. Cool.
I mean, it must be one of their small little side teams.
Yeah.
Actually, I think that was from an Amnesia Fortnite.
Going way off topic here.
Just saying.
Way off topic. Headlander. You play a character on a ship that's like, I don't know, it's exploding.
It's a spaceship that's under attack.
Yeah.
Everyone's dead. It's being overrun by
Robots.
robots. You wake up and you're just a head in a space helmet, and you can fly around and land on robot bodies
And take over those bodies.
Most of the gameplay is revolved around that.
kind of puzzly elements.
Yeah, so it almost supplants platforming with just popping your head off and moving it to another body at a different part of the level.
Because you can't jump or anything. All you can do is literally run left and right, and you can shoot. And then you can do a fine aiming where it'll give you a cursor that goes across the screen that you can bounce and reflect bullets with. What's another game that's kind of like that? I was going to think SteamWorld Heist, but I don't know how many people would get that. It doesn't matter. It gives you a laser pointer, and that will give you the trajectory of the bullet you're shooting. And that can be helpful because when you attack enemies, if you shoot them in the body, it damages the body.
Right.
But if you just get a headshot, it destroys the head, and then you can
use the body.
Yeah, so if you fly over to a body that's been damaged, as soon as you get on it, it's going to have less health.
Yeah, because every body has its own
Health bar.
specific health bar,
Yeah.
and then your head has its own health bar. It's quirky, it's weird, it's pretty cool.
It's a little goofy. There's some humor in there.
I didn't even really finish the first demo level.
There's
because
some
it's taken a
Metroid
while, but-
Metroid elements in the sense that the color of your suit determines the color of the projectile you shoot, which some doors
gates off.
some doors, you have to be in a red suit to get through this door, and I saw at least rainbow number of colors. If you look on the bottom, there was a spectrum, and it looked almost like Roy G. Biv. It looked like almost all of those colors, and so I'm definitely looking forward to playing that game more.
Yeah, that was a quirky, neat little game.
And then there's, I guess, the one game that you wanted to talk about.
Real quick, I want to talk about this one.
Which one?
Chambara.
I missed that one.
I
There's too
played
many
that.
fucking games.
I played Chambara.
Yeah. So Chambara.
It was
cool.
okay. I mean, it's screen cheat.
Okay.
Oh.
It's screen sheet mixed with the only added the difference here is it's a multiplayer deathmatch game. The world itself is stark contrast black and white.
Okay.
You have a team of black characters and a team of white characters.
Really?
And they're
Really,
the
Nick?
exact. Yeah, I mean,
Like, they're
we're
stark-
talking about like color neutral.
Okay.
Like,
Yeah.
So if you're in a part of the level that's white and you're a white character, you are invisible.
Interesting.
If you're black and you're part of the level that's black, you are invisible. It is very like obviously if you're in the wrong.
It's
part,
very obvious.
Like, you're very obvious. So
You
screen
also
cheating.
you play anthropomorphic birds.
What is this called?
Chambara.
Oh, I didn't even realize that's what it was.
Yeah, they're anthropomorphic birds. When you
The fuck.
okay, it's the cat. When you start a match, you pick 3 different things. You pick you pick a hat for your character. You pick a weapon, which in the first round I played, it's a melee weapon. The first match I played, I carried a swordfish. I was hitting people with a swordfish.
Mm-hmm.
The second round, I was carrying the wand that Sailor Moon uses.
Nice.
With the star in the middle.
Mm-hmm.
And then you pick what you pick.
What particle effect enemies explode into when you kill them.
When you explode, you could pick you explode into a bunch of hearts or explode into a bunch of.
Well, it's what your enemies explode into when you kill them.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Yeah, so like I picked numbers, and the cool thing too is like those effects are in a teal color. So as the match goes on, you start seeing like teal hearts and teal maple leaves and teal numbers all over the place.
Nice.
Yeah, that's the only thing that's actually colored.
That really like stands out.
You can also prevent. So he was encouraging screen cheating,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
but he said if you're trying to be sneaky and you're hiding somewhere, you don't want people to screen cheat. You can hold a button and you close your eyes,
And they can't see you.
and your eyelids actually close. so they can't
Interesting.
look at it.
So yeah, I
That's
mean
kinda
it is basically.
Wait, can
screen
you
cheat,
run
just
around
like-
with your eyes closed?
You can if you know what you're doing.
Interesting.
But that's really hard to get around like that,
Yeah.
obviously. And then so you have that melee weapon and you have one shuriken. You can throw a shuriken to stun people, but you lose it. But it's on the ground. You can actually pick it up.
Well, what if that wasn't Bob, Tim? What if that was just some random guy on your doorstep?
I trust Chris knows where to find weapons.
Okay.
What the fuck is that supposed to mean?
Mr. Division.
Welcome back, Bob.
Okay.
Are you a sex criminal?
So the last game from the mix that I wanted to talk
The good
about,
one.
yeah,
The good one that wasn't refactored.
the best one after refactor,
right. I voted for refactor.
was Overcooked.
Bob, these guys didn't vote.
These sons of bitches.
You assholes.
We didn't realize until we were in the Uber.
Oh yeah, Overcooked is gonna be one of our favorite co-op games now. I
So,
think.
Overcooked is so fucking dope.
So Overcooked, you play chefs in a kitchen, and it's I don't want to describe it like Diner Dash or something like that, but it's kind of orders come in, you have to complete those orders in a timely manner to get the most points. But the thing is, it's so like the very first one I played was we were just making soup.
Onion soup?
Onion soup.
Yep.
So an order would come in. You would take an onion. You'd put it on the cutting board. You would chop it up. You would take that and then you would put it in the pot. And then once you got 3 in there, it would cook. And then you would take that and you would put it in a bowl. And then you put the bowl on the serving thing and it would go out to the customer.
Yes.
Very simple.
And then and then bowls come back and you have to wash them.
You have to
And the whole
wash them.
And you keep getting orders like and the first level is just onion soup. It's just keep cutting onions, cooking onions, making onion soup. Very simple.
And you start to get this rhythm. Everyone starts to like try.
So the thing is,
But it is a game of literally too many cooks.
yes,
Like,
yes, it definitely is. And so when it's very simple, it's easy. The hardest thing about it when on the simple levels is just physically getting around the kitchen because it's very big and it's not just an open area; it's blocked off. So sometimes you have to run around. So the simple thing in the onion level was to have one cook on the top half and one cook on the bottom half. So the cook on the top would put the onions on the middle counter, and then you would take those and you would chop them, and then you would put the chopped onions back on the middle counter, and he would pick them up and put them in the pot. So you kind of get a rhythm going. But things get more complicated when you're cooking burgers on moving 18-wheelers, and the 18-wheelers are splitting apart, so you can't always go in between the two halves of the kitchen. And so we had to take ground beef and take it to a cutting board and like tenderize it, and then put it on the top half, which is where the skillet was. That also had the top half had skillets to cook it, buns and plates in the to-go. The bottom half had onions, tomatoes, lettuce, and the ground beef. And so it's this whole thing of, like you said, too many cooks. Like if you don't have organization, if you're not like, hey, you do this, like things just get super clusterfucky. And
the complicated one that we played was actually
it was on a pirate ship.
It's on a pirate ship, and as the water made the boat sway, the countertops were moving.
Yeah, it reconfigures the kitchen space.
Yeah.
And there's 3 different, like, it was soups again, but there was 3 different soups. There was mushroom, tomato, and onion.
Yeah.
And the orders would keep coming in randomly, and it's so hard to coordinate because our worthless teammates would, we would be like, we need onions, so they'd cut up onions, and then we would be done filling onion orders, and then they'd still just be cutting onions, but we've got like a shit ton of tomato and mushroom orders coming in. And while this is all going on, like, you'll be like at the cutting board trying to cut, and then you'll turn around to go to the pot to throw it in, and the whole kitchen will shift, and then you have to run around the long way to get to the pot. Like, it is such a fucking clusterfuck.
The cool thing about that is you can almost stay where you were but shift jobs. Like now you're on that side, so I'm going to drop it on the middle counter and you take over doing that, and now I'm going to do this.
It really requires communication, but I can tell you right now, it's going to be a fun game to stream.
I'm excited for
It's
it.
so good.
And
then things can catch on fire, and you have to run around with a fire extinguisher and put them out while everyone else is still cooking.
I'll be honest though, it's such a cool concept, but like it makes me hungry. Like I was watching, I was like, it's making me hungry. Like and it's just so, I don't know. It's fucking
was funny.
cool.
It was classic.
Look at the business card. This little chef who's on fire.
Yeah.
I love it.
The cool thing is also you can customize your chef. There's a bunch of different heads and stuff like that
we
you
were
can
all
be.
like raccoons and wolves.
Nice.
I was a wolf in a wheelchair.
I picked the trash panda.
Nice. I think I was the guy on the card, like the guy with the big goofy face.
Yeah.
I think that's who I chose. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Sounds like literally the best game ever.
No,
Yeah.
it was so good. It was. So
Oh, you
good.
didn't get to?
I was so busy.
Oh,
I didn't
yeah.
have a chance to play like any games there.
Oh man,
It was so good. We're gonna get it when it comes out and stream it.
Yep.
It's fun.
it'll be cool. So let's go ahead. Wait, what do you want to say? Do you want to talk about Fury?
I would like to talk about Fury.
I did play a little bit of Fury before the end of the thing.
Fury is a 1v1 character action boss game. You go into a level, you fight a boss, you move on to the next level, you fight a boss. There's nothing in between.
Crazy looking badass character.
The art design is really well done. I like it.
It gives me a little Samurai Champloo feel to me, to be honest.
Yeah, it's really just about boss fights. It's about parrying, ranged attacks, melee attacks, heavy attacks, dodging, and really that's all it's about. But it works really well, and it has this cinematic, feel to it when it goes in for like the big hits and the cuts and things like that.
The combat did feel good. My only problem with it was switching up the combat so frequent. Like at one point you had to do. Like I wonder if this is partially because it was trying to teach you the different moves, like as a tutorial. But it was having you switch between doing parrying attacks and you can even shoot ranged bullets, and then you can move in close and do like charged melee attacks or charged ranged attacks, and it was making me do all these different things. But I guess that was a tutorial level.
It does. Yeah, at least this first.
But the boss fights last a long time.
Yeah, they do.
Because like the bosses will have like a health bar and then like 5 or 6 dots, and you have to reduce its health bar however many times, like 5 or 6 times to actually kill them. So it's really just these like, it'll set it up with some kind of cinematic intro, I guess, telling its story, and then It jumps into the boss fight, and then you have to fucking essentially kill this boss like 6 times in a row.
Wow.
And what I think is kind of a cool mechanic in there is that the boss, when they shoot ranged attacks, some of the bullets that it'll shoot are going to be green. If you shoot those bullets, those drop health items you can pick up to restore yourself. And when you successfully parry a melee attack, you get instant health revived onto you.
Yeah, so it is going to be kind of like a tug of war. So I'm wondering if like the boss has ways of getting health back. Probably not, just because he has so many health bars essentially. But it does seem like it's going to be a little bit of a tug of war between the bosses. And like it has just a really cool visual style, and it looks like it's it looks kind of like a badass anime character. I don't even know how else to describe it, but it's kind of like pixelated at the same time.
Oh, I did see this. I couldn't read the sign.
Yeah, it's Fury.
The text, the font is so weird. I was
read
like,
Curry.
yeah, Curry. I was like, Curry, what? And so I think someone was playing it, so I didn't get a chance to
It's
see
cool,
it.
though.
Okay, Fury.
It's definitely cool though.
It's
PlayStation side, right?
No, this is it.
No, that was at the mix.
it actually is. PlayStation booth.
It's on the PlayStation booth too.
Cool.
Oh, I didn't know that.
It's coming out this July.
That's next
and
month.
It's pretty cool.
I'll probably play it. All right, we need to talk about Zelda. I don't think we should talk about it until Nolan's played it.
I don't think tomorrow we're gonna have all that much to talk about.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, definitely talk about it. I want to hear y'all's thoughts. Yeah.
Okay. So first of all, I want to just say Nintendo, like, they organize their booth and the way they're doing this demo so amazingly. Like, I will say this: I stood in line to play that We Happy Few yesterday. 2 people in front of me was just fucking awful. It was terrible line experience. It was hot. There was no one paying attention to how long they were playing the demos.
I think the problem with that section, the Xbox section, is they have all these rows of kiosks set up, but they're only about maybe 5 feet across from each other, and they try to do lines, and it's just really crowded, and it's just
there's no one managing them.
Yeah.
But honestly, the Xbox booth hasn't had a good design in like the past 4 or 5 years.
And they take up so much space because they throw like unnecessary things like a giant Lamborghini in the middle of it. It's like I like Lamborghinis and all, but you don't need to put it in the middle of your booth space. Whatever. Point is, I waited in line for an hour to play We Happy Few with 2 people in front of me, and I waited in line for about an hour and 20 minutes to play Zelda today, with about 300 or 400 people in front of me, or something like that. And it was such a smooth experience, and the way they were managing their line, they had the lockdown. They had shit all the way through the end. It was great.
Yeah, it makes plenty of sense why they only have one game now when you see how efficiently it moves.
It was so efficient, and their booth was awesome. But so the actual demo is split. It was a 35-minute demo. They for the first 15 minutes they let you just explore the world. They drop you in and say, go do what you want. Second half of the demo, they start you literally at the beginning of the game where he wakes up on the slab and comes out of, and you see the world for the first time, and then you kind of go meet a character, and then he points you in a direction. Like, they essentially let you play the first 20 minutes of the game at that point. What's going on here?
Nothing. Don't worry about it.
The exploration is really fucking cool.
Nice.
Really fucking cool.
Mm-hmm.
There's so many little details, and they give you a bow and arrow, pick up the bow and arrow, and I walk out into a field. I see a fucking like a boar, and I was like, I'm gonna try and hunt that boar. So I pull an arrow back. I fire the arrow. I hit the boar. And I was like, yes! And it does a little poof, and it turns into a piece of meat. And I go to pick up the meat. But before I can make it to the meat, a little goblin comes up from the right side, grabs my meat, and starts eating it.
What?
I was like, what the fuck? And the girl that was watching my demo, she's like, I've actually never seen them do that before. I didn't know they could do that.
That's cool.
So I just had to fucking take that dude out. Took my meat. Son of a bitch took my meat.
Took my meat.
But they let you explore this like plateau area, that whole region, and someone help me. I mean, I don't even know where to go. Everyone kind of went in different directions and did different things in their demos.
Yeah, it's
such a big
it's
area.
the same open field with grass and trees and the occasional goblin that you've seen. Like, but I didn't see that much.
Oh my god! But
you can't go down to the area with the ice. You actually fall off.
Yeah, you can't really climb up the mountain either because you don't have enough stamina to make it or enough time.
Yeah, and that's where they're gonna actually start. That's what they're actually gonna use to bar progress through the world. is like maybe you haven't upgraded your stamina meter enough, so you can't climb to the top of something.
Yeah.
But other than that, the world itself was pretty huge, and you could pretty much go anywhere, or at least try to go anywhere. The climbing, you can literally climb on anything. You walk up, press a button, and he just goes.
Is that a tree? You can climb it. Is
It just works.
Climbed a tree, climbed the side of a mountain, whatever. You can just walk up and do it. Feels great. I'm also really, really liking the control scheme and how you can switch between weapons. You hold right on the D-pad and you can just cycle through them. When you let go, it swaps.
Mm-hmm.
And you can do that with weapons. You can do that with, I think you can do that with your equipment.
Well, yeah, with yeah.
Runes and-
Mm-hmm. Your
The
runes,
map,
yeah.
the map you can pull up on the pad, and you can actually customize your map. So if you see like a chest somewhere, it gives you a bunch of different icons, and you can drop those icons anywhere you want. You can just basically fill up the map however you want.
I want to point something out.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Nintendo could not fucking resist the urge to put motion controls in this game.
Are they mandatory motion controls?
No,
or
they're not. They're not. But that
Was the scope the motion control, or
well,
the?
When you're
there's
aiming
that
the arrow-
and arrows. Arrows are also motion control, and they didn't tell me that for a long time. So I'm sitting there I was sitting there like trying to aim the arrow with the D-pad, and he's doing this. And I'm trying to get a shot on a goblin, like a headshot, you know?
I just
and
thought
he's
that
doing
was-
this? No. I asked her, I was like, why is he so fucking wobbly? Do I get more skill later and that goes away? Does he have archery equipment that cuts that down? And she's like, I don't think that's in the game. I don't know what you're talking about. And I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? Look at this. And I showed her and she's like, oh, I think this is motion control. So I started moving the pad around and he's doing this. And a little bit of my soul died. I'm taking this as a sign that the NX is also going to have motion control. So the gimmicks keep on rolling with Nintendo.
Supposedly, you can play throughout the entire game with the Pro Pack.
You can,
So-
you can, and it's great that they give you that option.
The only problem with that
but
is
this is just it's an indication that they just won't fucking let it go.
also the problem there is if you decide to play with the Pro Controller, you're essentially eliminating the map on the tablet, which I think is a really helpful feature.
Could it not be like Pikmin 3 where you still have the map on there,
maybe.
but you're using
Maybe.
the controller?
Well, it's
And
also kind of like Xenoblade Chronicles.
And who knows?
Yeah.
Maybe the NX
X.
won't have motion control. I mean, because the motion control is not required, so that doesn't necessarily mean the NX is going to have motion control. It just means you're playing on the Wii U, which by default has motion controls. If you play any game where you're aiming an arrow in basically first-person mode, it uses those controls.
Yeah.
Pretty much pretty much across the board. It's a
This-
small board, but across the board.
This is gonna sound like a stupid question, but I just realized that I didn't actually look. But what was it displaying on the controller?
Controls.
Controls.
Yeah.
Just the
Yeah,
controller.
it was just a control.
But
chips
it did give you the option to touch the touchpad and play exclusively on the D-pad on the Wii
on the
tablet
gamepad.
thingy.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't.
Yeah,
I just
which
look
you know.
down. However,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So in the course of the demo, I tried out as much of the combat as I could. I came across some encampments. So the bow and arrow has the ability to what's the word I'm looking for? You can track. So if there's an enemy in the distance, you can aim way up above it and arc it
Yeah.
over and try and hit him, which was worked out pretty well. The enemies will actually they don't you can be stealthy. You can push a button and crouch and sneak through the grass, and if they kind of see you, they'll kind of make a noise is that it? Is that someone?
That they're investigating.
They're
or-
investigating,
Mhm.
so you have an opportunity to quickly get out of sight before they actually full on attack, which can actually add some strategy to the way you approach encampments. I switched between 3 or 4 different weapons over the course of the demo. I used the sword. I used the giant claymore sword, which I actually picked up from one of the goblins. I used a spear, and I used an axe.
Did you do the charge attack with the spear?
Yes.
Like I was telling you,
Yes.
instead of doing the normal sword spin, they stabs like 10, 15 times in the
Yeah.
direction. Yeah.
And one of my favorite things that I think feels really, really good. So you can do one of the things where if you parry or do a dodge,
Mhm.
you can do the backflip. Right at the exact moment they go to attack, it'll slow down time and give you an opportunity to do an attack or
Nice.
split your bow and arrow. And even just doing the backflip and then going into the bow and arrow feels really cool. When time slows down, feels super nice.
I feel like the durability on some of the weapons is
A little low.
really short.
Mm.
Like to the point where I had all of 15 minutes with that first part of the demo, and I broke my bow within 6 minutes.
Your bow?
Yeah, my bow.
Do you
like
think-
I was drawing an arrow, and the bow shattered.
Oh.
Do you
And I
think
just
that's
didn't have a
Do you
bow
think
then.
that's just because it's the early game and you have like shitty weapons and
Yeah,
later
I mean, I'm
on
sure
they'll-
that's part of it.
I'm
I'm
wondering if there's going to be like an upgrade system to specific weapons at some point, because I feel like there's going to be an upgrade system for your stamina.
I
There has
feel
to
like
be.
they're doing that though to like they just break the weapon to get around having to add in something where like to get around like crafting or get around like repairing and shit like that. So like no, it's just broken. Go find another one. Like they almost like the weapons are almost like disposable at that point. I'm sure later on, and obviously things like the Master Sword and like kind of more iconic weapons aren't going to be like that.
It does feel like
How much would that suck if you got the Master Sword and within an
Right.
hour you just broke it and it's gone?
it does definitely encourage like experimenting with weapons, and like all the weapons that I used felt different,
Mhm.
and like to a point where you actually have to use different strategies based on which weapon you're using, which is and this is one thing. So Crispy and I talked about. Crispy and I had a discussion in the Nintendo booth, which I'm sure will make it into one of the vlogs that we put up. And like this game is doing a lot of really really awesome things, but nothing that it's not breaking. Like it's doing things that other games have done for years.
It's
not breaking new territory.
it's doing
It's not
things.
breaking
It's
any
doing
ground.
things that are new for Legend of Zelda, which is really cool. And it's great that people are super excited about this game because this is like a new direction for Legend of Zelda. This feels much more modern than some of their entries end up feeling when they come out. You know, and that's really cool. But the two caveats to that are that when you really like play the game, when you actually stop and think about like what you're doing, it's the same shit that many other RPG series, especially Western RPG series, have already been doing for a while.
Yeah, they're a little late to the party, and
right.
it's about time. That they start doing
It's not that Legend of Zelda's really like jumping out ahead. It's kind of just catching up.
Yeah, which is kind of what Nintendo's been doing for the past like 6-7 years.
Correct. And B, a lot of the content we saw in the demo was not indicative of the stuff that we already did love about Legend of Zelda. There wasn't really that much puzzle solving. There wasn't really anything in the way of dungeons. There were like small
Shrines?
dungeon type areas.
Let me interject here because that's something that I did that I don't think you did in your demo. I actually stumbled across a small I found this shrine. And I was like, "What's this?" And I walk up to it. There's like a switch. I hit the switch.
Put your
and
slate
all
on
this-
it.
I can't remember.
Okay,
but
that's
I
fine.
ended up.
That's fine.
I did, and then it took me down underground, and there was like a small dungeon area. And I was like, okay, well, I know I only have 15 minutes, so I want to go explore the open world. So I went back up. I didn't really do it. I saw somebody else doing it, and it looked pretty cool. She was using
It
the
looked
slate,
cool.
the
She was
magnet
using
thing.
the magnet rune to move platforms around. But what I'm getting at is this, like even these little dungeons, they, you look at classic 3D Legend of Zelda games, even the old school Legend of Zelda games, like they would have dungeons. They would have fewer dungeons, but they would be these big set piece moments in the game. Like think about Ocarina of Time, like going to the water temple was like a big thing. There was a lot going on in there. Going to the fire temple was a big thing. There was a lot going on in there. They all had very distinct looks, feels, puzzles, whatever. Like the kind of quote unquote dungeons we were seeing were something more akin to me to like say a Bloodborne Chalice dungeon.
Okay,
Like it's kind of just this area in the world that you can mess around in for a few minutes and then
sure,
go do other things.
that's fair, but also I guarantee you 110%
That there will be
that
these big.
Okay, so at a point in the demo, in the story part of the demo, you actually pull a switch and you see all of these giant
These towers.
totems like rise out of the ground
But we don't-
all across the world.
Right, the Sika Towers. We don't really know what's up with those yet because the one Sika Tower we did actually see didn't do anything.
But if I had to put my money on something, I would say that those are all in close proximity to actually the main dungeons of the game, and you have to go to each one of them. But I was talking to the lady who was helping me with the demo, and she said when I found that smaller dungeon, she was like, "Oh yeah, so these are some smaller dungeons you can kind of stumble upon. There's puzzles and then get you access to equipment and stuff that you may not already have, or But she said there's over 100 in the game, so these things are going to be scattered across land. I don't know to what extent or how detailed they're going to be, but there are a lot of them.
Yeah.
I like the direction that this game's going in.
Yeah.
This is something that I could definitely see myself picking up and playing day one. Now, from what I understand about Legend of Zelda, because I'm not a huge mega fan, I've played a bunch of Legend of Zelda, but I've never actually finished one. Okay, but I've been around it enough to kind of understand what people like about it from hearing them say what they like about it.
Yeah.
And those elements weren't necessarily representative here. I'm worried for hardcore Legend of Zelda fans that some of the overall like gameplay arc is going to be disrupted for them in this game. It's not going to be like, oh, you go to this temple first, you solve these puzzles, you get this very specific piece of equipment to take over to this temple to solve these puzzles, to get this very specific piece of equipment to go to this temple to solve these puzzles, so on and so forth, till you finish the game, right? I mean, if this is an open world game, you're kind of stumbling into dungeons. I mean, how kind of rounded off do these dungeons have to be to make them, to make it so that you can have that emergent moment of just exploring the world, finding a dungeon, and then doing it. Instead of it being like, oh, well, you don't have the hook shot, so come back later. If every dungeon in the area you're in needs a hook shot, then,
Yeah.
I'm not saying that would be the worst thing in the world, but I could see that being a drag for people who are kind of who really like that about Legend of Zelda.
Sure. The thing is, I feel like Nintendo has been so insistent on not changing or updating their formula for so long that even Zelda fans who are like super, super, super into Zelda and love the formula they use, I think even those people are kind of like, okay, maybe now you can change it.
You know what, Nick? Hold on. Take that statement and replace every time you said Zelda with Pokemon.
Yeah.
Ooh. Still makes sense.
True.
But yeah.
You're right.
Crispy?
Well, I mean,
Or
let's be honest.
For that matter, take that and replace any Nintendo IP.
There are a lot of Legend of Zelda games, main series Legend of Zelda games, that are very different in presentation from one another, but still operate off the same sort of design philosophies.
Yeah.
Whereas Pokemon is basically the same mechanics with a new coat of paint every single time.
Correct.
This is the first Zelda where they have departed dramatically from their established formula.
I'm not saying that this demo was bad. Like, I had fun. It was great. Like, it was a really good time. I don't want anyone to think I'm being overly negative here. I just think there's a lot of kind of emotional hype around this because this is such a beloved franchise. We finally got to look at it. We finally got a name. We've got a lot of new details, a lot of gameplay, and people are getting a little overwhelmed with that. But I think once this hype wears off, people are going to come back to earth and kind of see how different isn't always in this, like how this is much more different than maybe what they were hoping for or expecting. I think it's going to be a fun game. I just don't they haven't. Again, I can only base this off of what I've seen so far, what they've shown us, what I've actually played so far, and what that was, what little that was, did not seem to be the most representative of classic Legend of Zelda. So I don't know if that's a good thing for you or if that's a bad thing for you. If you're sick of that and you want something new, this should be great. If you are looking for, if you're looking for like this generation's Ocarina of Time, I mean, I don't know if this is really going to completely fit that bill.
Well, as a, as someone who has for a long time considered Ocarina of Time to be my favorite Zelda game ever made, I feel like this has the potential, because obviously it's still way too early to really make that call. Like, this has the potential to be, one of the best 3D open world or 3D open Zelda games ever made.
And there's way more about this game that we don't know.
Yeah,
than
but the fact
we
that
do know.
But the fact that they've been doing so many streams of this game on Twitch since E3 started, and they have managed to show the world so much about it, but only within this tiny area of the game, and like still there's still so many questions about it. Like, holy shit! I can already tell you right now, I am probably, unless there's something that we haven't seen in this game actually finds a way to like really shit on Zelda somehow, like, which I don't think it's going to, but like unless something like that happens, like I see myself spending over 100 hours in this game easy.
Possibly. Did any of y'all get the magnet rune?
Oh, you get it in the demo.
You get it.
Like,
In the
you
first
have
demo.
it.
Did you stand on something and try and lift it?
We
No.
didn't. We saw somebody
come on.
doing.
But you should try that
though.
tomorrow.
Does it work?
Well, actually, I don't think they were actually standing on it when they were trying to.
I'll
lift
try it tomorrow.
But yeah, if you got to find one of those dungeons, though.
Cool.
So you got to look around and you got to be quick because don't bother trying to do too much climbing because he climbs very slowly and it eats through your time.
Cool.
Yeah, you're gonna have to find a way. There's gonna be something that upgrades your stamina. There has to be because it doesn't last long enough to really do much of anything.
And there
from the
like
start.
there were things that they showed like different foods you could prepare that affected your stats differently. So like I found something called like silent mushrooms or ghost mushrooms or something
Yeah.
like that. And if you cook them and ate them, they made you stealthier. Yeah. So I'm sure there will be things like that, probably equipment that also affects his stamina meter degradation and things like that.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a really cool game and there's a lot of reasons to be excited. But just be prepared that for this
Also-
to be very different.
Yeah, and following up our discussion from this morning, I think there are rupees in the game. I didn't find any, but I found something in the environment in the description that said it can be sold.
Well, yeah,
for
no, that's
rupees.
a couple of community members were tweeting at me this morning after I talked about that. That's saying, yeah, items descriptions were saying that, yeah, these can be sold.
Yeah.
So, yeah, there is an economy. There is somewhere you can go and sell these items. So,
Yeah,
yeah,
But it
it
doesn't
just.
seem to be anywhere in the demo.
Well, yeah, they're
Yeah,
probably
so-
not showing it for some reason or another.
It's just one
Anyways.
less thing you need to.
Well, there's a
show.
plot reason why, but
Yeah.
yeah.
We'll talk more about it tomorrow after Nolan's had a chance to play it.
Cool.
We'll go into more detail, but for now, I think we need to probably wind down. 'Cause
Yeah, we're 15 minutes late.
it's getting late, and we got to get to bed because we have another long day in the show floor tomorrow. So, of course, thank you so much, guys at home, for watching and listening. We'll be back tomorrow night to do our last E3 podcast. Tomorrow's